Happy Wednesday. Welcome in. This is Three Man Front. Pat, Landrum, Molly with you. Conrad did the morning show this morning. He'll be back with us sometime next week. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. We have got a jam-packed show.
Jam-packed.
Just like yesterday.
Yes.
It's like every time you turn around, we're going to be talking Sweet 16 with somebody. We're going to start with our own guy, Brian Edwards, right? That's his name? Yeah, Brian Edwards.
Brian.
Yeah, Brian. Well, the reason why is because you and I were talking before the show about Brad Edwards.
Yes. Who was just so instrumental in college football analytics, metrics, stats for ESPN.
Wrote a book on
Nick Saban.
Yep, I talked to him yesterday, so that I was telling you about that conversation, so that's why I had to look down on my notes to make sure we were talking to the right Edwards.
Hope he's doing well.
He is. He is. Told me to tell you hello.
Is he still living on the golf course?
He's still living in Connecticut.
On the golf course?
On the golf course. Yep.
Does anybody ever play that golf course? Every time we saw it, it looked like it was covered in snow or 5 feet deep. It didn't
matter to Brad. Brad was.
He didn't care.
Yeah. It's all the time.
And some random guy walking by his window looking for his ball.
As he would do the show with us. That was good stuff.
Just mine.
Brian Edwards from Vegas Insider, MajorWager.com. He'll join us at 10:45. 11 o'clock, Chris Stewart, voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Daryl Moose Johnston, VP of the UFL. We've got UFL kicking off on Friday. He will join the program. Kevin Kugler, the pride of the University of Nebraska. He will be on this program at 12:15, not to talk about how bad of a student Molly was at Nebraska.
They were in a class together, right?
Yeah.
Didn't he audit or something?
He spoke at a couple of my classes.
Oh, okay.
She had to audit the class because she was failing.
Well, that too.
Okay. It was Adrian Martinez you had class with.
And a couple others, but yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
He will be on the call in Indianapolis for Westwood One Radio that you can hear here on Jocks 94.5. He had the BYU game against Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
So we will get some thoughts from him about the BYU team, and then he's going to get an opportunity to see Tennessee and Kentucky coming up this weekend. So we will talk to him about a litany of things. Mike Rodak is in Newark, New Jersey, covering the Alabama Crimson Tide. He will be on at 12:30, and Peter Raderkus will join us from AL.com. He covers the Auburn Tigers as they get ready for their battle in Atlanta against the Michigan Wolverines. So we have got a lot to get into. I want to start off by talking about our good friend Ty Richardson.
Yeah.
I did Ty's show this morning.
Was he live at the Tenderloin?
He was not live in the Tenderloin. I got him kind of chuckled at the very beginning. I asked him, I said, well, hey, listen, I'm glad to hear that because just like on this show, when you are on hold, you get an opportunity to hear us just BS about nothing of significant value. It's just us rambling about something.
Yes.
And so he was rambling about his Southwest flight from Phoenix to San Francisco. Molly, you probably already know this, about how difficult it was for him to get out there. So I was listening to him ramble on about that. And so they bring me on, and I said, well, first off, Ty, I just want to say that I'm happy to hear that you made it okay out to the left coast. He lost it. Just
when you said left?
Yes. Just started dying laughing.
Oh, he started. I thought you said that he dug his heels in.
Ooh, no. He loved it. Started laughing hysterically. And I was like, what? I've only been on for like 10 seconds. I'm already in trouble. Like, what did I do? And he goes, no, dude, it was perfect. Then we started talking basketball. And then I brought up the Tenderloin.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I hope that you're going to put that on social media. I said, I want to be able to follow you, Ty, as you step over all the homeless people in San Francisco in their tents as you try to get to the Tenderloin. I just would not let it go.
And what is waiting for you inside of the Tenderloin? That's the question.
Yes. So let me ask you this. You're a world traveler, Molly.
Mm-hmm.
And so as Ty was having this conversation with me, he was telling me all the do's and don'ts of San Francisco, of things that you should call San Francisco and things that is allowed to call San Francisco. Did you realize that San Francisco is noted as the Paris of the West?
I did not know that.
I did not know that either.
I've never been to San Francisco, so.
Okay.
I've been twice.
When you were in San Francisco, did you ever hear that terminology, Paris of the West?
Never heard that.
Okay.
Did have somebody ask me if I had any heroin. No kidding.
And your answer was?
Just ran out. No.
So
the answer was no.
It
Can't
was
help
no?
you, dude.
Okay. Yeah. So, and also about you can't call it Frisco. Like that's a no-no for locals. Like you don't eat, and I think San Fran is not.
That's not cool.
That's not cool either.
Oh.
But yeah, they embrace the Paris of the West.
What about City by the Bay?
He didn't mention that one.
Okay.
I was thinking of some other ones that I can't say on the radio that
See, I don't like Frisco, but I like San Fran.
but I'd never heard that Paris of the West.
There's a couple more. You probably, I don't know. Maybe they would embrace it. I don't want to go down that road.
Oh, why not? It's only 10:06.
Maybe later. Let me circle back to that one. Yeah.
But he made it out there safely. There was apparently, is this expensive? I mean, Molly, you travel a lot. He was griping and complaining about $21 for daily parking at Love Field in Dallas.
It's not bad.
It doesn't seem very expensive to me. He says it's like $8 at Little Rock.
Oh, wow.
Well, it probably is. It's not that. It's probably, what is it in Birmingham? It's like $14, $16 a day, something like that.
can't
like
tell you
12, 14.
Yeah, it's not much. But Little Rock, that sounds about right.
$21. Yeah, he was not happy about that.
Did he take his golf clubs?
I don't know. He didn't say.
I'm sure there was a baggage fee there.
But there was some kind of mishap between Dallas and Phoenix. And then he got to Phoenix and had to finagle his way to San Francisco.
Well, is he doing rideshare? Is he renting a car? Because valet at the hotel is going to run him $45, $50 a day easy.
Didn't get that far in the conversation. All this conversation was happening prior to me coming on. Like I was on hold for a good 5 minutes.
Is his flight, is his return flight just after the final game there in San Francisco, regardless, or you didn't? Okay.
I don't know, but he was.
Maybe I should have had this conversation.
He was pretty confident about being in San Antonio and hanging out with you next week.
Was he?
Yes.
Okay.
And
I'm right there on the Riverwalk. Just got that confirmed. Romantic stroll there by the Riverwalk.
Are you staying in the Marriott in which the river actually comes through the lobby of the hotel?
I don't know. You'd have to check it in the break. I'll
Okay.
show it to you.
Okay. Did you know this? I completely forgot. But Ty was saying during the interview that Arkansas was preseason number 3 in the SEC. Do you remember that? I'm not saying he's lying. I just don't remember that.
No, but I'll take his word for it. I know they were top 6. I don't remember top 3.
Yeah, because he was basically saying, look, everybody's gotten healthy. The expectation of this team was that they were 4th preseason. Who was
on the SEC website? It has Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, Arkansas at 4.
So, should we call him back live?
Correct him?
Yeah. By the way,
Molly just needs to do a screen grab of SEC's website.
Yeah, do that
and text it to him.
I've got receipts.
No, tweet it out.
Ty, you're wrong.
Just text him.
checking you, Ty.
When you text him later, just add that to the list.
Okay.
Listeners, they have no idea, but I think it's funny. It's great. Wonderful. Hope he enjoys his time there in San Francisco. I like Arkansas's chances.
So that when he said that, I was like going, wow. He was like going, forget the fact that they're a 10 seed. They were preseason number 4 in the SEC.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the talent. And I said, well, I mean, I agree with that because your talent has gotten healthy.
Well, it has, but you're not getting Boogie Flam that you thought prior to the injury. He's still trying to come back. But what if you do get Boogie Flam? Because the first 2 games of the tournament, there was some rust there.
And Thero is playing, he said. So, yeah, they feel like they have gotten – now, Thero, I think, is going to be on that time clock, just like Boogie was.
Yeah.
They're talking about maybe getting 15 minutes out of him, 15 to 20 minutes. So, now they feel really good.
Well, can they dominate the offensive glass or just the glass in general against that Texas Tech team? That's the question. And who's going to be their scorers? Who are going to be their guys that step up? Can they get hot from the outside?
All good questions.
That'd be wild. I was just thinking about potential Final Four scenarios.
Well, what was the scenario Brett told us yesterday? The wild one?
So it was Arkansas,
Ole
Miss, Alabama, or Duke, and then was it Kentucky or Tennessee? I probably should have listened closer. Maybe we all should have.
I think you were a little distracted yesterday.
I was distracted.
There was a lot going on.
There was sensory overload. But yeah, but I also though, think about this. We're talking about the SEC, and would it not be? I'm not saying this is going to happen. I was just, golly, that would really suck if next week we're looking at the Final Four, and just the field is, let's just say Auburn's not there out of the South region. Ole Miss isn't there. We're talking about a Michigan or a Michigan State. And you go down to the next bracket. What if we're talking about a Texas Tech? Then we're talking about a Houston. Then you go up, we're talking about a BYU. Then all of a sudden it's like, well, Big 12 wasn't that bad in basketball this year.
No, they weren't.
Right? Or if you get, what about this scenario? You get Auburn playing Texas Tech in a semifinal. The national championship game that should have happened, Pat.
You're still on that.
Yes, I'm still on that. It was a double dribble. I was right there. Kyle Guy.
Did you jump up when it happened and start screaming?
Yes.
I mean,
my coconut bra came off.
I mean, because you were not in the media section, like you were sitting.
No, I was in the dignitary section. I was with the people who sang the national anthem, the student athletes, and one of them happened to be a volleyball player from Auburn.
So that's how you were able to get that seat.
Yes, and it was a great seat. It was wonderful. So
the
Auburn student section was right behind me, and to watch the elation and then the wait a minute, what's happening? Why is nobody leaving the court? And then three foul. When he lined up for the first free throw, I went back to the media room to get a head start because I knew he was going to make all three.
Just think about how much basketball has changed since 2019.
A ton.
Considering the fact that situation, the final 2 minutes of a basketball game, how long it will take in today's world, as opposed to 2019.
The non-double dribble call, though, that's still a non-reviewable call, right?
I believe you're correct.
Still wouldn't have changed anything. Was it meant to be?
And if you watched North Texas last night, the final few minutes of that game, that was...
The final few minutes took an hour.
Yeah.
In Stillwater, but it was a good game.
But nobody wants to see that.
No. And North Texas has a tendency of doing that.
I mean, we've seen it firsthand. North Texas probably has written the book on how to muck up a game, a rock fight. That's what they do. And so tonight, UAB has an opportunity. If they knock off UC Irvine, they will play North Texas, team that's in their conference. Team have already played a bunch this year.
And you got North Texas's old coach coaching Texas Tech.
I know. So it's just...
Look out, Florida.
But hey, hats off to Chattanooga. Chattanooga gets to the NIT Final
What a
Four.
Comeback against Bradley.
Yeah,
number
Bradley.
one 3-point shooting team in the country.
Bradley, a number one seed in the NIT. So UAB tonight.
Come on, Blazers.
Over on Jocks 2 100.5, we will be on the pregame show starting at 7:30 tonight, 8 o'clock tip. They take on the Anteaters, who are 30-6 on the season. It's the first ever meeting between these two schools. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
When they played Santa Clara the other night, it was only the second meeting all time. So kind of checking some boxes on these teams. So UAB had that big comeback on Sunday against Santa Clara. Yaxel Lindenborg averaging 18 points a game. UAB ranks 14th in the country in rebounds per contest. Really good on the glass. They're third in the nation in offensive rebounds, thanks to Yaxel Lindenborg.
Well, Yax just set a school record for rebounds in a season. I know that UAB, I saw the graphic that came out, most wins by college basketball programs over the past 5 seasons. UAB is tied for 11th.
That's correct.
In number of wins.
Sure is.
Pretty impressive.
Also, the Blazers ranked 67th in the country in tempo. They average 82 points per game. That is 16th nationally. So UAB bringing some heavy arsenal from the offensive side in tonight's game against UC Irvine. They're going to need it. UC Irvine 30-6 on the season. Blazers win. They'll play North Texas at Hinkle Fieldhouse on April Fool's Day. It will be the late game. Thanks.
I have some extra. You'll have some extra fodder, though. This is a good time of year for you to be doing the Green and Gold Report. You got plenty of stuff to talk about.
It is better than the November, December games. The fall calendar just does not work out as well.
Where you're talking graduation rates and who walked.
Pretty much. It's pretty much what we're talking about.
That's when we tune in. I call neighbors in. I'm like, you're going to love this Green and Gold Report.
Yes.
Pat's scrambling for info.
Yep. So that will be
4.5 point favorite, UC Irvine.
That is correct. And also, speaking of lines, I did notice this morning that the line is swelling for Alabama and Auburn.
Swelling?
Yes. Right now, BYU, they are now a 5.5 point underdog. It was 4.5 yesterday. It's gone up a whole point. Meanwhile, Auburn is now over 9 point favorite against Michigan. That's going the other direction. So if you like value and you like the fact that Michigan can keep this close, you just got another point handed to you by Vegas.
Well, if you know my track record with the Auburn this year, I have faded them in games, and it has worked out in Auburn's favor. So for the Auburn fans out there, I will fade them once again. I will take Michigan plus those points.
Michigan and the points, say Landrum Roberts. On three-man front, we welcome your calls at the beginning of this show because our first guest is not until 10:45, and then it's kind of breakneck after that. So if you got a text you would like to get into the show, that's the Courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450. This is Three-Man Front. We're live in studio on this Wednesday, Jocks 94.5. Did you watch this show?
Of course I did. Comet was the best golden retriever. You remind me of Uncle Jesse.
Oh, thank you.
That Elvis look that you pull off every single day.
I thought you just watched it for Candace. What's her name? Candace Cameron. Yeah.
And she turned out all right. The other girl, she had some rocky times. What was Jesse's wife's name on the show? I know it was Aunt Becky, but she got into trouble with the whole admissions scandal.
That's correct. She was trying to get her daughter into
Olivia
USC.
Jade.
Mm-hmm.
That's the daughter's name.
She was married to a designer. Did you know that?
The mom?
Mm-hmm.
No, I did not know.
While she was married to Uncle Jesse?
Well, just Uncle Jesse on the show.
Okay.
Yeah, do a search. It's it's a big designer that she's married to in real life. Because that was the other thing. Well, not to mention the fact that she was a successful actress, but her husband.
Massimo.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. It was Massimo guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
So it's like, why do you need to bribe somebody to get your kid into a college?
Yeah.
Just do it like everybody else and just pay the tuition. Oh my gosh.
So weird.
And once again, it proves that we have smart TV in here, and he just talked about Uncle Jesse, and John Stamos just popped up on the screen.
No
Yeah.
way.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Not lying.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's listening.
It's-
Always.
No, it's real.
And that
They're
last
watching,
break,
they're
when we were
listening.
talking about San Francisco, all this stuff started popping up
Yep.
from San Francisco.
Rice-A-Roni.
Mm-hmm.
Saw one of those commercials.
Yep. Bunch of trolleys, and I said trolleys.
You can get us in trouble with this whole San Francisco thing. I knew it when you went down that road. Maybe we'll circle back in the final hour and I'll tell you some of the other acceptable names. Or are they acceptable?
Oh, yay.
Hmm.
Well, for flu, pollen, and allergy season, keep your home cleaner with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. It removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those contributing to allergy and virus, and it's proven to be more effective than standard and HEPA air filters. So contact a Trane certified dealer for the Clean Effects Air Cleaner.
All right. So yesterday in Raleigh, North Carolina, Will Wade got him another good job. This time he's going to take over the Wolf Pack. Take a listen to Will Wade. He's excited. He's pumped there in Raleigh.
Passion and competitive fire that I had at LSU without all the arrogance that got me in trouble. I've grown and matured since then, and you're going to get the best version of me. I just couldn't be more excited. Our time is right now. Our time is right now. This is the first time in a while, I think, the fans, the administration, and the program, we're all on one accord. And everybody's on the same accord. Everybody's singing from the same sheet of music. And when that happens at NC State, it's going to be a reckoning for the ACC, and it's going to be a reckoning for college basketball. And it's coming soon. And I want to be very clear. This is not a rebuild. We're going to be in the top part of the ACC next year, and we're going to the NCAA tournament. This is not something that's going to take a whole lot of time. All right? This is make sure you got that on camera. This is going to be done. This is going to be done the right way, and this is going to be done quickly. We are here to win.
There you go.
Coming in at a great time. Conference has never been this low when it comes to basketball.
Yeah, it's not going to take much for you to be in the upper tier of the ACC for next year.
And you're taking over for a coach that made a miraculous run to the Final Four
just a year ago.
Gottfried had success at NC State.
Man, until he got caught cheating.
Exactly, but the whole cheating thing, that's out of the picture now.
I mean,
think how easy it will be for Will Wade with resources.
I mean, think about what he said there. I mean, it's the first time that we've all been on the same page, because now because you used to have a group of people that were like, we're not cheating. Like, we're not doing that. You had one group that was always, and that goes for every school. You always had somebody that wanted to absolutely not only toe the line, but go over the line big time. It happens at every school, but now the NCAA has been neutered, so they have no control over what you do. So that was exactly what he was talking about. This is the first time that everybody in this university is all on board that we need to pay players, and we need to pay a lot more than the $2 million that we paid this year for our roster.
Will Wade's an outstanding coach. Chattanooga, VCU, and LSU, and then McNeese. He's been to 7 NCAA tournaments in 13 years as a head coach, something like that. But I appreciate what he said, and I read one of the stories that somebody had put out about his initial meeting with Boo Corrigan, and we all remember Boo from the College Football Playoff Committee, and what he had to say and be accountable for what happened at LSU. And he said, I was wrong. I own it. And he said, some people say it's not that big of a deal now because it's legal, but no, it was wrong then. I shouldn't have done it. I owned it, and I'm moving forward in my life. I appreciated that from Will Wade.
Well, the bottom line is look at all the guys that got convicted by the NCAA in which they're prospering now. I mean, Sean Miller just got a contract for $5 million at Texas. You know,
some of them are prospering. To your point, the head coaches, yes, they are prospering.
Nothing ever happened to Bill Self.
Nope.
I mean, that was what was all criminals because all these other dudes got dinged a little bit. But don't forget that there were people that went to federal penitentiary.
Yeah, I was going to say
over this stuff.
The pokey time, people having to go and serve real time in a federal prison, that was, they didn't all escape.
No. I was mainly talking about the major head coaches. Now, their assistant coaches, unfortunately, their lives got ruined.
And a couple of runners that did not turn state's evidence.
Mm-hmm.
They found out real quick they probably should have flipped.
Yeah.
So wait a minute, we're talking about prison?
And I love the
like
part
real
about
prison?
Where Will Wade said, make sure the cameras are rolling. I promise you people in Chapel Hill and Durham.
Well, at least he didn't say we're going to win a national championship. You can mark that.
Hey, listen.
Or I'm getting this team back to a Final Four.
When he had his press conference at McNeese State, he said almost the identical same thing, and people laughed. Now, think about that. He's at McNeese, and he is predicting we will be in the NCAA tournament. And he checked that box twice in back-to-back seasons. So, hey, listen, if you can back up what you say, and the people at NC State, I mean, they're putting a lot of faith in him, but a program like that needs to. But he also is walking in there proving that, listen, you can get back and be competitive pretty daggum quick if you will just follow this blueprint. But they're going to spend more than $2 million. I was reading an article last night where Arkansas spent about $10 million this year on their roster. They're expected to spend that and a little bit more next year. Louisville has already come out and said they're going to spend at least $10 million on their roster next year. We don't know for sure how much the Alabama roster costs this year, but behind the scenes, people have told us it's in the neighborhood of $6 to $7 million. Yeah. So if you've got Louisville going up to $10 million and Arkansas has already said, well, we're going to spend $10 million, then it's going to be interesting to hear what Alabama and Auburn's roster is going to look like next year and how much it's going to cost them.
Well, there's a threshold for every program, and that's why some coaches, they build their rosters in different ways, and that's why you've seen it from Nate Oates, but you've seen it from Bruce Pearl too. Did you see the graphic that came out that somebody posted yesterday, and it was all the Sweet 16 teams and their starting five, and it had a logo of where they actually started their careers? Pretty insane. We knew it was insane, but when you actually look at it, all comprised into one graphic, it's like, wow.
And that was one of the questions that Ty asked me on the show today about how important is freshman recruiting. And I quickly told him, I think it's still very important because I don't think Auburn would be where they were or are right now without Pettiford, and Alabama would not be where they are without Philon. I mean, think about it. I mean, Philon had his best game as an Alabama Crimson Tide basketball player when he played at Auburn and beat Auburn. And think about this last weekend against Creighton, what obviously Pettiford was able to do in that game and took it over. So I still think that there's room there for you to navigate and have a freshman involved. I think that's still going to be important, but they like those older players and they like guys with experience.
Prime example, if we want to go Grant Nelson, if we want to go Chris Youngblood, guys that came from programs where you might not have known who they were prior to them signing with Alabama. Denver Jones at Auburn and some other pieces. I mean, heck, you go back to Janai Broome and coming over from Morehead State. A lot of that going on and how it's affecting and chalk holding this year in the NCAA tournament. and not having some of those really cool stories. But it goes back to our conversation yesterday, Pat. TV ratings are up, 3% over the course of the first 2 weekends or the first 2 games? That tells you that America, they appreciate the underdog story, but they want to watch the brand names duke it out.
Yep, they sure do.
Pun intended.
We will take your phone calls, 1-800-239-WJOX, courtesy GMC text line 205-834-9450. Brian Edwards coming up at 10:45. Give us his thoughts on the Sweet 16. That's all coming up next on Three Man Front. Ten 10:34, Jocks 94.5. We'll take a couple of your phone calls before we get Brian Edwards on the program. We'll tell you about Golston Tree Service. Now's the time you need to call Golston. They have a certified arborist that runs the company. Been in business for over 35 years. The number's 205-337-4018. As I mentioned, that certified arborist is very important this time of the year. If you've got any questions about your tree's health or your shrubbery or anything of that nature that needs to be taken care of, well, Golston Tree Service, they can take care of that, and they're going to give you a free assessment. All you got to do is call them. They're going to come out, and they're going to take a look at your situation on your property, and they're going to be honest. They're going to say, hey, look, I think that tree and those trees need to come down, and we need to get them out of here. Or, hey, you know what? They're just a little ill right now. Let's do a couple things, and let's save these trees. They're not in the business of just trying to come and take things out just so that they can charge you. They're there to help you because that certified arborist cares about the tree's health on your property. 205-337-4018. And don't forget the 24-hour emergency storm service at 205-337-4018. That's Golston Tree Service.
You got some time for phone calls, 800-239-WJOX. Jeff is up first, wants to talk Kentucky. Hey, Jeff.
How you doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. I was just curious, and you guys may have already talked about this topic with Kentucky basketball and Coach Mark Pope previously, but, you know, I'm like 62 years old, and I've been a Kentucky fan forever from Kentucky. But I've never in my life seen any school at any time have to start from zero and recruit a full roster and then have the success that they have had this year. And I just think that is really sort of unbelievable.
It's remarkable, Jeff, what Mark Pope has done, and being that guy that was not the top of the list for Kentucky in the job search, but as a guy that got Kentucky playing there, seems like just a genuinely great guy. And not only that, he can coach basketball. But, yeah, for what Mark Pope has done for them to be in a Sweet 16 and having a chance to advance even further, it's pretty incredible. It makes me wonder if Kentucky's going to be back maybe a little bit sooner than people thought. And when I say back, I mean back to being the team at the top of the conference.
Echelon back. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I sort of I'm hoping so because of who he is.
Jeff, we lost you, man. But I think we got the sentiment in the direction that you were going with the call. But yeah, Mark Pope, that's been an awesome story for Kentucky fans this year.
Yesterday we had Aaron Gershon on the program, who covers the University of Kentucky for Cat's Paws, a 247 site. And we've had Aaron on the show for years, and I've never heard him more excited about covering a basketball team as we did yesterday.
Yeah.
It's just a breath of fresh air when it comes to Pope. And, you're covering Coach Cal, and then all of a sudden Pope comes in, gives you full access, and the guy played there. I mean, he's got a vested interest. He's got sweat equity in the program. And so I think that says a lot about Kentucky and what their potential is moving forward.
Well, and some of those personalities, those guys, they work very, very hard, guys and gals, in doing what they do and covering a team and the travel and being there after practices and midweek press conferences. And that's the job description. But I feel like some of these coaches, and whether it was Coach K, whether it's Coach Cal, they go out of their way to make it more difficult for those people that are covering their team and could be their biggest allies when it comes to positive press. That's why I asked the question, because that's just a lot of added stress for those folks, and having to deal with a personality and not knowing what you're going to get each and every day that you go in there. And he said, Cal even referencing, a question that he had asked and he had been covering, and they had a professional relationship for 5 years and couldn't even reference him by name. Whereas I'm sure Mark Pope probably goes out of his way to say, hey, to all those folks.
I think you're right. Back to the phones we go. Don is next on Three Man Front.
Don.
Hello, fellas. How are you guys?
Doing well. How are you?
Hey, first of all, guys, thanks to you two for everything y'all did yesterday. But I got to give a shout out to, of course, BB and PG and my Lambikai brothers, and especially Pat Askins and Van Snyder and all my friends that were there. What a great day, fellas. Thank y'all so much.
Oh, it was a great atmosphere. It was very cool to see all your friends show up to celebrate your birthday. On top of that, and I don't think I'm going out on a limb here, it's very difficult when we're there on Tuesdays to get seated up on the Taco Terrace. But yesterday was an all-timer. I mean, people were like pulling up chairs to where Landrum and I do the show, but it was a great atmosphere.
A lot of people love you, Don.
It was a lot of fun.
Well, guys, I want to thank y'all, man. Y'all are fantastic, fellas. But Pat, what is the line on the for entertainment purposes for the Auburn game?
9
Friday
points. Auburn is a 9-point favorite currently.
Night? Well, guys, in Molly, what y'all thinking?
Molly, you going Michigan?
I'll probably take Michigan in the points.
Michigan in the points, but Auburn wins?
Yeah.
Is that your official prediction?
Well,
That's
wait a minute. Time out. I don't expect. Hey, that's your Big Ten in you, Molly.
It is, and I admit that.
Well, are you rooting for Auburn, or you are cheering wise? Are you rooting for
I'm
Auburn?
not
or
rooting
Michigan?
for anybody. I'm a professional, Don Don.
She just hopes that Michigan covers. If she predicts Michigan,
I'm not rooting for
Well, there
anybody.
you go. There you go. I got no problem with that.
she
Well,
also
me not
her
being in Biloxi.
sister-in-law is a graduate of the University of Michigan.
She is. That's where she got her master's. She's a Duke graduate and a
That's
Michigan graduate. Both of her
Oh.
teams are in.
Well,
still.
didn't y'all live in Detroit at one time?
We sure did.
They lived in the rich part of this big suburb.
Yeah.
We saw those houses.
They lived in
Yeah.
in Dan Campbell's neighborhood.
Yeah, it was gated.
Well,
It was yeah.
I got to admit something now. When I've met your father a couple of times, Molly, y'all seem like y'all are doing quite well.
How about that?
Yeah. Yeah. You can't hide money, Don.
No, you can't.
But since you asked,
That's
I like
right.
Michigan plus the points. I like Auburn to win. I don't mind telling you I am unprofessional. I hope that Auburn wins. Hope Alabama wins. I hope Florida wins. And I hope that Tennessee or Kentucky win. And we have an all SEC Final Four.
It's because that's what you predicted.
There you.
Exactly. And who
Oh.
doesn't love being right?
Yeah.
Well, Pat. By the way, on my team draw yesterday,
Mhm.
and everything, well, you draw a team out of a hat, and they're your team the rest of the tournament. Buddy, I got BYU, so now I really have an excuse to cheer against Alabama.
Oh my goodness. Oh. Hey, before we let you go, how's Kaylee doing today? She okay?
Yeah. How's she doing?
Well, no, the people at Barristers had a good time with her. I took her down to Barristers too.
I had a
and
good
everything.
time.
They
You
got
just
a big
passed her
kick out of it.
around? What are you doing?
I just passed her around, Landrum, and everything, and
She deserves
and
better.
I left her there though. Okay, so that they're going to put her in the closet probably and keep her down there for me. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, Don, have a great Wednesday. Appreciate you calling.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. That's Don giving us a call. Coming up next on Three Man Front, Brian Edwards, Vegas Insider, gives us his plays for this Sweet 16. That's next. 1046, Jocks 94.5. He will join us momentarily. Brian Edwards from MajorWager.com. He's a contributor to Southeastern 16. Also, of course, Vegas Insider.
Warmer weather, that means stinging insects, problems there in the yard, but not if you have our friends at Stark Exterminators. Stark Exterminators, over 61 years, they've been family-owned, do a wonderful job, not only here in the state of Alabama, but around the Southeast. Our friends at Stark Exterminators want to remind you that this time of year, when the weather gets warmer, there's those stinging insects and those things that can cause problems for you and for your family. The good news is you can call Stark today at 855-STARK now or go to starkexterminators.com. Check them out. They'll have one of their great team members come out to your home, inspect it inside and out, come up with a customized plan for you. Not only the free pest inspection at your home, but also if you're a business owner, they'll come to your place of business as well. 855-STARK now or go to starkexterminators.com. Professional, courteous, that's what you're going to get from our friends at Stark Exterminators. And make sure you tell them Landrum from Three Man Front sent you.
Joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline, Brian Edwards from Vegas Insider joins us here on Three Man Front. Let's get right to it, Brian. Let's talk about Alabama in Newark, Sweet 16. Third consecutive year that the Tide have made it to the Sweet 16, taking on a pesky BYU team. Before I ask you about the team totals, let's talk about the side, which is currently -5 for Alabama.
Yeah, I like Alabama a lot here. BYU, it likes to play up tempo, and if a team wants to play up tempo with Bama, outside of maybe Florida or Auburn, I think Alabama's going to get the best of that. If you're going to run and gun with Bama, you better be shooting well. I think BYU's going to have to shoot at a very high percentage, which they have been doing. And I love their head coach, and they've got some studs, no doubt about it. But they like to play the way Alabama plays, and I think Bama is more athletic. They are way more tournament tested. And, once again, we've seen Nate Oates' team go into the tournament the last 2 years with, kind of a struggle, albeit against elite teams. Maybe even the fan base is losing a little confidence in them. But they come through, and they're on to the second weekend again, and I think they'll be on to the Elite Eight for the second year in a row. I like Alabama laying the 5.
Brian, to your point, this is a BYU team. People have knocked Alabama defensively, but it's a BYU team that does not play defense. They're not very good at defense. And something that we've seen in particular games, whether it be Auburn versus Creighton, I think Florida versus UConn on Sunday, is that style and the physicality that the SEC teams bring, and it starts wearing on teams late in games. And even with the styles that these two teams will play in Alabama and BYU, I think they wear them down, and I think that plays a vital role in the outcome of this game in the closing minutes.
Yeah, I agree with that. And to your point about BYU not playing great defense. Ken Palm's has them ranked only 72nd in the nation in defensive efficiency. And for those looking at the total, if you've been riding the Bama overs, which I have, obviously lost against St. Mary's, got a fortunate one against Robert Morris, but hey, we'll take it. But BYU has had run and gun games. I mean, they just had a 91-89 game with Wisconsin for 180 combined. They had a 91-81 with Arizona State. They had a 96-95 game with Arizona. So, they've had these high-scoring games like Bama usually has. They've had plenty of them themselves. So, but I think I feel a little more comfortable. Like, look, Alabama -5 is my main play, but I think I would rather do Bama over 90.5 on the team total than do it 175. But I will add this. If you want to bet it at 175 or 175.5 over right now, I mean, it's been like clockwork. Every Alabama game, even here in the tournament where we get the lines, a little more beforehand than usual, the day of the game, the total moves up like 3 or 4 points. So if you just want to bet over 175 right now, you can come back with under 178 or 179 on game day because it's happening like every single game. Now, that's not a perfect science, but it's been happening almost all their games the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, that's a good thing to watch out for. All right, let's talk about Arkansas. Surprise, surprise, the 10 seed, the Hogs, they're in San Francisco. They're going to take on Texas Tech, and right now they're a 5.5-point underdog.
Yeah, I like all my games that we're going to talk about, but I think I like Arkansas plus 5.5, or I bought the hook to 6. I think I like that game more than any of the other games. Arkansas is on fire right now. They're getting Fierro back. Boogie Flan's only going to get better. He had 2 good floor games, just didn't shoot it well. And the length of Adu and Brazil inside was St. John's was, they were impacting shots in the interior. Now, St. John's obviously was 2 for like 23 from 3. That was mostly on them. But here's another factor in this game. Chance McMillian, Texas Tech stud, leads them in minutes played, 3rd leading scorer, best 3-point shooter. He's missed 3 games in a row. He's very questionable. Whether he's going to play or not, we'll see. He averages 14.2 points, 4.1 rebounds. He's made 69 threes, shoots 43.4% from 3, and better than 88%, at the free throw line. Whether he plays, we'll see, but he's probably going to be not at 100% if he plays. Texas Tech 5-8 against the spread slump last 13, 1-3 in their last 4. Whereas Arkansas 11-3-1 against the spread in their last 15, but 2 of the non-covers were by a half point. The push was nonsense. That was a win for me if you bet it the day before the SEC tournament. And their last 10 as underdogs, 8-2 against the spread with 5 outright wins. I like Arkansas to win outright and advance plus 210 money line, and I'm heavy on them plus 5.5 or 6.
I do want to talk about the Florida Gators because they had their gut check game against UConn, and I give credit to Dan Hurley and the plan that they had, and I thought that UConn matched up really well with the Gators. But Florida -6 against this Maryland team, and as fun as that was with the buzzer beater, I look at this Maryland team, I look at the resume. I know that Pat had them going to the Final Four in his bracket, but I just don't see it. I think the Gators roll. What do you think?
I do too. I think they win by double digits. And in 2007, when we were going for the repeat, we had a very tough second round game against Purdue. We were down by 6 or 7, like mid second half. And I think that, big time gut check test, if you will, I think it helped them the rest of the tournament. I think what happened in the UConn game will help Florida moving forward. Florida is still 10-2 against the spread in 12 games as a single digit favorite. They're on an 8-game winning streak. In the last 15, they're 14-1 straight up, 12-3 ATS. And they've got 27 wins by 11 points or more this year. I think they win by double digits. I'll lay the points with the Gators. I'll also get a little bit of them -3 in the first half.
Another SEC underdog in the Sweet 16, and it's against another SEC team. Kentucky is a 4.5-point underdog to Tennessee.
Yeah, I like Kentucky plus 4.5 in this game. They've already beaten the Vols twice this year. Kentucky's been an underdog 12 times this year, 8-4 against the spread, 7 outright wins, including 2 on the Vols. We've seen the Vols struggle offensively in the second weekend many times. Rick Barnes is only 4-4 in 8 career Sweet 16 games, 1-2 in 3 such games at Tennessee. And I trust Kentucky more than I do Tennessee, especially at the offensive end. So I'll go Kentucky plus 4.5, not against the little plus 160 to plus 170 money line if you want to do that as well for a smaller amount.
What about Friday? State Farm Arena, the first part of the doubleheader, Auburn and Michigan in the nightcap. You get Ole Miss and Michigan State. Michigan State, a 3.5-point favorite. Who you like in this one?
Yeah, I like Ole Miss plus 3.5. They've been an underdog 16 times, 10-6 against the spread, 7 outright wins. And I do not like the Michigan-Auburn game. I think it's Michigan or pass, but I had Creighton plus 9 last week to Auburn, and I thought I was going to win for most of the game. And then Creighton just ran out of gas, which, Auburn can do that. They've got an incredible depth, and maybe they do the same thing here. I think it's Michigan or pass, but I'm going to pass.
You think Auburn wins the game?
Yes.
Okay.
But I think Auburn advances. Purdue-Houston is also a pass for me. Hopefully I win Kentucky and Ole Miss early, and I'll just be enjoying the cocktails late Friday night rather than stressing on the game.
Well, I know I texted you this weekend because I went all in on Florida, and it did not end well for me. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, I had a tough. Yeah, that was a tough game for me.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at my DM from before the first round last week, Pat, and I'm wondering why you were in such a hole. You had to go all in on Florida.
You turn him loose over the weekend in a tournament setting, Brian, crazy stuff happens.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, enjoy the weekend. Absolutely. Yep. That's right.
All right, gentlemen.
Hey.
Thanks for having me. Y'all have a great weekend.
Thank you, Brian. The voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide live from New Jersey is next.
$11 o'clock, three-man front, getting you ready for the Sweet 16. Chris Stewart, courtesy of Craneworks, momentarily to break down Alabama and BYU there from Newark, New Jersey. Coming up tonight, we got UAB round 3. That would officially be the quarterfinals of the National Invitational Tournament, the NIT, as they take on a very good UC Irvine team. The first meeting between the two programs, 8 o'clock, you're going to get that one. 7:30, the pregame, voice of the Blazers, David Crane, along with the award-winning Pat Smith. We'll have the pregame show, 8 o'clock tip there, and should be a lot of fun. And UC Irvine is a 4.5-point favorite, Pat.
Yes, they are, the Anteaters.
The Anteaters.
First ever meeting between UAB.
Do we have one of those at the zoo?
I'm not sure.
Is there a name contest? Can we vote?
Like the Cougar?
Like the Cougar. What was
Madonna?
it? Was it Sierra?
Sage.
And Juniper.
Yeah.
But I said Madonna would be a great name for a baby cougar.
For every vote, it costs you $1. So I recommend that you use every single dollar you have in your checking account and you vote for and put Madonna in there. See if See if it wins.
Be great.
All right.
Walk-up music, all that.
He is across the river in beautiful, luxurious New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey, making his way to the arena. And each and every week, he's brought to you by Craneworks, Chris Stewart.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah, the big dog's got it.
Crimson Tide Network's Chris Stewart on Three Man Front is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it. The big dog's got it. And now, Chris Stewart.
And Chris joins us now on the Higginbotham hotline, heading over to the arena. Give us a weather report. How's it looking there in beautiful, just gorgeous Newark, New Jersey?
Let me tell you, Newark has been nice. We actually have had a good time. Weather has been pretty good. A little overcast right now, but it's not cold. It's pretty pleasant. The only issue is the GPS got Tom Stipe. As I'm riding back seat in our rental, Tom Stipe at the wheel, Brian Passett riding shotgun, and we were engaged in a great conversation. And then we realized as the GPS had us, the destination is on your right. It was not the Prudential Center, nor anything close to it. Not really sure what happened with the GPS that Tom put in, but all I know is it looked like the neighborhood in Queens that Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall pulled into, and we had about the same look on our faces that Simi did, that Arsenio did. He was not pleased, and the furs and the hubcaps were gone by the time we turned our heads. It was we're trying to get the heck out of Dodge.
Was there a sighting of the Bada Bing Club anywhere?
No, but Mighty's Barbershop, I think, is right around the corner.
Nice.
All right, so let's talk about this game. Get through to the Sweet 16. Had an interesting game with St. Mary's. St. Mary's tried their best to muck it up, make it a rock fight, and Alabama at the end of the day was able to get their tempo, get their offense rolling. I don't think you're going to have a problem with BYU making it a rock fight. I think they want to go wall to wall, and they want to run just like Alabama. Kind of preview what we're going to be in store for tomorrow night against the Cougars.
No, I agree with you. They're a team that loves to run. They're good at it. If we're at our best doing what we do and they're at their best, then it's very likely going to be a good night for Alabama. The problem is, if you're off and they're doing their thing, then it could be a tough one. It could be I'm not going to say a long night, but it could be. I mean, hopefully this Bama team's going to shoot the ball the way they're capable of. I think, to me, that's one of the biggest things so far is the fact that we really haven't shot the three. I haven't shot it terribly, but we haven't done anything exceptional. 13 made threes in 2 ball games, and this is a team that's capable of going for 13 or more easily in a single game. So if you can make 8 to 10 and finish a couple more at the rim and defend a little bit, I think you're going to be fine. But it's a case where you cannot afford to be off offensively and guard at a low level and think that you're going to advance to the Elite Eight for the second straight year.
Chris, wouldn't this be one of the few times, though, in matchups? Because we think about Alabama teams in the past, and it's a misnomer when we think about this team and surviving or living and dying by the three. That's not who they've been. They've been a team that they can pound it down low. They can get points in the paint. They can play physical basketball. It seems like instead of maybe trying to match everything that BYU is going to do with a 5-out offense and spreading everybody out around the 3-point line, that Alabama says, okay, well, we're going to make you defend us inside. We're going to take it on the blocks, and we're going to make this a physical 40-minute ball game. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't think under Nate Oates, Bama's ever been a live or die by the three. It's a major part of your offense, but it's predicated on getting to the rim and trying to get shots there. And if not, then you're pitching it to the 3-point line. They just don't take mid-range shots. It's about getting open shots, and it's about creating open shots by forcing the defense to defend you at the rim. That's the first objective. They play inside out. So it's not the old school throw it in the post, back your way down and score all the time, even though there are some elements of that. But it's never been live or die by the three, even though they take more than most teams. And they're going to have to score at the rim. They're going to have to finish at the rim. But when they get some opportunities to stretch the floor, they're obviously going to have to make them. And that's what I say. That's the exciting part to me, is that they haven't gone nuts in terms of what they've done from the three-point line. It's been pretty close to the season average, but they haven't had that game that we've all seen from them where, 12, 15 threes is not at all uncommon.
Talking to Chris Stewart, the voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide. He is in Newark, New Jersey, getting ready for the Sweet 16 as Alabama takes on BYU. So let me ask you about Mark Sears. So he shot 37% so far in this tournament. Last year, on the way to the Final Four, he shot 53% from the field, and he is just 1 of 9 from the three-point arc in the tournament so far. Any area of concern there? I know Nate Oates, he's not going to have any concern. I mean, matter of fact, he bragged after the game against St. Mary's, what a great game that Mark Sears played, but his shooting percentage is down. Any thoughts there on Mark Sears and what's going on?
Yeah, frankly, it's exciting because just as I was talking about with the team, and part of the big reflection of that is, you know who he is. You know what the percentages say that he is. And if he is affecting winning in a positive way and has still not scored in the numbers we're used to seeing, that's a good thing, because the scoring's coming, but he's still engaged. He's still involved. He's been really good on defense. He has distributed the ball at a high level, and just as he did in the game against Auburn at their place, the other Auburn took him out of the game offensively for the most part. But when you had to have a bucket, he was still your guy and managed to get it done. But man, the assist numbers, I think he had, it's been at some point in the last couple of games. It may have been in the last one. Bama didn't have anybody go completely off. They had 6 guys scoring double figures in the win against St. Mary's. He may have had 10 assists in that game. I think he did. There was, Mo Diabate had a double-double in points and rebounds. So, Mark's doing things that make the math add up right. It's just not all with him, making shots himself. He's getting other guys involved, and they're stepping up.
Chris, who would you consider, if not the vocal leaders of this team, the leaders of this team when it comes crunch time? Who are those guys that step up? I'm guessing that Mark Sears is one of those guys.
Yeah, Mark's not a real talkative guy, but
right.
He is on the floor. He can get their attention. Chris Youngblood's great in that regard. Even though he's only been around a year, Nate talks about CY a great deal and what a future he thinks he has in coaching, because he is definitely a guy who's come in and hasn't been afraid to speak up when the situation calls for it and rally guys. I think Mo is that type guy. Grant can be that. One of the great, strengths of the team is that you have quite a few that are. And even the young guys that are fairly, Aiden Holloway is a great teammate. He's not a vocal leader necessarily, but man, he is ready to jump on board and follow and do things that are maybe quiet leadership, but he is in line with let's go. Baron Philon is a guy that, because he's a freshman, you don't necessarily think of him as a leader, but he ain't afraid of anything or anybody, and he'll take on any challenge. And again, those are the type of guys that you want to have. I think Cliff's playing some of his best basketball right now, and so effective around the rim, whether it's scoring or whether it's blocking shots or challenging shots, altering them. of year is guys playing their best basketball, and I don't know that they fully hit their stride yet, but I definitely see them trending that way.
I want to ask you about Grant Nelson because he started against St. Mary's, came off the bench and gave some really good minutes against Robert Morris. I assume that he is 100%. He's good to go. He's ready to play as much as Nate Oates needs him to.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you got the start in the last game. Look, it was 9, and it's easy to say in retrospect, but I'm not sure it could have worked out better. This team didn't play its best, got pushed to the point that Grant himself said, "Coach, put me in." And given the circumstances, Nate didn't argue with him. Now, he wouldn't have put him in if Grant wasn't well enough to play. I think he was healthy enough. I know he was cleared. I know he said he felt good enough. Just watching him, if you didn't know that he had an injury, you wouldn't have known just watching him, move around and go through some stuff and shoot around practice, all that in the day or two leading up to it. He looked like Grant. But, if you're able to rest him, then great. Well, they did for the majority of the game. And then he comes in and he, was an impact player. He had 5 points. He had 3 boards, challenged a couple of shots. I don't know how many in the final 7.5 minutes, but he was actively involved in virtually all of them. And that was not only huge in terms of winning, but I think it helped him in a big, big way to have the cobwebs removed and have confidence going into that game against St. Mary's. So he could just go out and play and not have to kind of feel it out. He knew where he was, and he was ready to go, and obviously a major impact player.
As far as the preparation, and you've been a part of this a few times, but the preparation, I think a lot of people think about the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8, and they think about, okay, well, you go and you prepare for this game, but the turnaround time is so little, and the downtime as far as you do media, you do all of that, you try to get nutrition, recovery. My guess is Nate Oates' staff, they put everything that they have into BYU, and maybe you have somebody else that just in case is working on a Duke or an Arizona scout?
No doubt. And there's stuff that they gather before the tournament. They're looking at the bracket, and there's some basic scout info that they have ready to access. And that's where having such a big staff with, different guys that may have a role, let's say, as video coordinator or, whatever title. There are a ton of guys on the staff, but they're all working collaboratively. They've got an assignment of getting ready for whoever potentially the next opponent could be and gathering as much info so that when the page turns from one game to the next, they're able to immediately let the coaches see it, evaluate, and put their plan in for what they're going to share with the players for the next game. And, they will have plenty of stuff available for Arizona and Duke. Should we be fortunate enough to advance and get into that game? Because you're right, it is a quick turnaround, but it's pretty fascinating to see. Part of it is, just like you said, that's part of why we didn't come back. The game on Sunday, we're going to fly on Monday morning. Just talk about this past week. You're going to fly on Monday morning. So rather than flying to Tuscaloosa, where you're going to go and recover from that flight, wash clothes real quick and probably have distractions and still try to get classwork done. You just make one flight. That stuff gets taken care of because of the great staff they've got. They do their work online. They're able to just spend basically Monday resting. They got into a gym and shot, but they didn't go through any practice stuff, real work. They did have film study, I think, by Monday night to start looking at what BYU is. But from a physical standpoint, there wasn't a whole lot. And then Tuesday, they got after it yesterday at practice. It was a pretty intense deal that they did at oh gosh, help me guys, where do we go? Yeah, NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology.
Oh yeah, we know it well. We know NJIT very well.
NJIT very, very well.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. But one cool thing we're watching, and the head coach from the texter, which, by the way, this was really cool, on the stanchions. Their battle cry, if you will, is roll tech. It was cool to see, roll tag. It wasn't just put in for the side. It's on their goals there. But anyway, their head coach comes out and he had a player with him. And the player was talking to Nate Oates, and I kind of checked their roster and looked and figured out Adrian Rogers, freshman guard from New Jersey, playing for NJIT, son of former Alabama big man Roy Rogers.
Oh, my
Worked in
goodness.
the NBA
How about that?
for years. And Brian Passett got to connect with that young man, and it was really cool to see Brian, who has not seen Roy in 30 years. They had been teammates. They were part of the same signing class at Alabama, but they got to reconnect and swap texts. It was cool hearing Brian at dinner last night reflect on just he said, I didn't realize how meaningful it was, but the memories that kind of came back of Roy and the friendship. He goes, I've been texting with him all day, and it's been the coolest thing, just from being in an obscure place like that, randomly running into the guy's son. It was pretty cool to see. Just one of the side things that happen when you're at a place like this and you're on the road that you kind of take for granted, but really cool stuff.
Well, that is very cool. Well, Chris, each and every week, thanks to our friends at Craneworks, they're able to bring you to us. And even from Newark, New Jersey, I know Craneworks means a good deal to a lot of our listeners.
That does indeed, and it's because they're the most trusted name for crane equipment rental in the Southeast, and have done it for 3 decades now. They've got a fleet of cranes, whether you're talking about one that's 2.5 tons up to 500 tons, and Craneworks offers trained and certified operators, making sure they get the job done right for you. They got locations in Birmingham, Nashville, Mobile, and now Huntsville as well. Go online to craneworks.com to get more information.
Have a great call tomorrow night, Chris. Hopefully it's an extended weekend there in the beautiful suburbs of New York City, and we hope to catch up with you next week.
Looking forward to it, guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks. That is Chris Stewart, the voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Dobbs Ford right there on Parkway East in Birmingham. The Goshen's, they do a wonderful job. They're the managing partners there at Dobbs Ford, but the entire team, and that's what separates Dobbs from most other dealerships. Any that I've encountered, it's the customer service and it's the values that they reflect from the top all the way throughout the Dobbs staff, whether it's there in the sales staff, whether it's when you walk into the showroom or when you go into the body shop. They're going to take care of you. But also, they have Alabama's largest showroom selection. They're going to beat any competitor's price. You get top dollar for your trade, a no-hassle process, and it's the process and the people you're going to deal with that makes it great, and they'll beat any competitor's price. F-150s, Mustangs, Broncos, and Bronco Sports, Escapes, Explorers, great fleet of brand-new inventory, as well as pre-owned inventory as well. DobbsFordBirmingham.com. Go see and feel the difference at Dobbs Ford. Make sure you tell the Goshens and the rest of the fine folks at Dobbs Ford that Landrum from Three Man Front sent you.
When we come back on Three Man Front, we have a little bit of news about the Masters and Jim Nantz. We'll tell you all about it next on Three Man Front. Very soon, Landrum.
Hello, friends.
Jim Nantz announced today that he is retiring from calling the Masters in 2036.
Oh, thank goodness.
It will be Nantz's 51st time calling the tournament, and it will be the 100th anniversary of the Masters. So he has announced that 2036 will be his final Masters. He says it would be a perfect place to walk out.
And by 2036, I'm not trying to get morbid here, but I hope he lives to be 200. But if he is not physically able, maybe his mental faculties are not all there, can we do hologram like we did of Harry Carey at Field of Dreams game? And then we could take AI to do the calls?
Just have him go ahead and record a bunch of golfers' names, and then AI can put it all
AI
together.
is scary, and it scares.
But I'm sure by 2036 it'll be even scarier.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they could get it to work.
So with the 100th anniversary of the Masters, it would be his 51st calling of the Masters.
That's amazing.
51 years of calling the Masters. But he has announced that
How many times you've
2036.
been to Augusta National? Well, I've called 51 of them.
And I assume
Whoa.
he's got a contract that goes to 2036.
That or he just
I'm even more impressed by that. The fact that you've got a network contract does he have a lifetime deal?
probably and the way that the Masters works, the Masters, their brass is probably like, and you better make sure that Jim Nantz is anchoring all the coverage.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I think the Masters probably stepped in and said, okay, this is who's calling our golf championship.
Yeah.
Period. And as long as Jim Nantz wants to do it, Jim Nantz is the voice of the Masters. Period.
Yep.
End of discussion. So, yeah, he did an interview this morning, and he said that 2036 will be his final one, 51st calling the Masters tournament, and it will be the 100th anniversary of the Masters tournament itself.
Vern Lundquist, was he the primary before Jim Nantz on that call?
What of the main voices?
I know he continued to be a part of the coverage where he was in one of the towers over one of the greens, which I always found like I wanted to see how Vern got up in that tower. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm just kidding.
No, you're not. Nice guy.
Super nice guy.
Just one of the classiest individuals you will ever meet.
But you understand what I'm saying, though.
I do.
And it was like, wow, how are they getting him up there at that point?
Mm-hmm.
Crane works, scissor lift.
Yes.
That's what it was explained to me. But yeah, so Jim Nantz, that's good. I hated how you did that. That's mean. That's cruel.
Yeah, I was
Not only somebody like
too.
me, even just you know what? I watch 7 holes of golf a year on TV, and it's the Masters. But Jim Nantz, he helps out.
I thought Molly was going to cry. I looked in the other room, and she didn't know what
You
I was
can't
gonna
do that
say.
to people.
Yeah,
What did I do? I didn't lie. I didn't embellish. I said that he was stepping down. He is.
Yeah.
In 2036.
That would have been the equivalent to like 4 years ago, you leading off and insert Nick Saban's name where Jim Nantz's was. Yeah, bad news. He's retiring in 2050.
Okay.
That's good news, though. Hey.
Yeah.
My favorite call, though, was one of the secondary channels that you can go and you can look at the different holes. And I forget her name, but she was British. And I still have the video, and it started raining. And she goes, pitter-patter, soft Georgia rain.
I love
Soft Georgia rain.
And right about that time, I just finished my sandwich, and I dozed off.
Was that the
great.
same year that they had the trees fall down and almost injure all those patrons?
Later
Was
on
that,
in the weekend, I think it was.
you remember what I'm talking about? It
yeah.
got like really scary.
Yeah, where the ground was so saturated.
Remember all those
and
big
then the
pine
winds,
pine trees got torn down.
That was really bad.
Yeah, that was bad.
Pitter-patter, soft Georgia rain.
That ought to be on a T-shirt.
He really should.
A Masters T-shirt. Coming up next on 3-Man Front, the UFL will kick off this weekend. They'll get underway on Friday night. The Vice President of the United Football League, Moose Johnston, who was a regular on this show a couple years ago. Once a week, he would join us talking about the XFL and the USFL. Now he's just talking about the UFL. That's next on Three Man Front.
$11:33, three-man fronts here on this Wednesday. Got NIT tonight. UAB taking on UC Irvine. 7:30 the pregame on Jocks 2 100.5. 8 o'clock the tip. Quarterfinals of the National Invitational Tournament. UAB wins. They advance to Indianapolis and will compete for the NIT crown. Of course, we've been previewing Sweet 16 with Alabama coming up in Newark tomorrow as they take on BYU. That's the first tip we're going to get from Newark. We just talked to voice of the Tide, Chris Stewart, courtesy of Craneworks. A little bit later on, we'll talk Auburn as they get ready for their date in Atlanta with the Michigan Wolverines. But it's also spring football season. Giddy up, our Birmingham Stallions kicking off the season this weekend. The UFL kicking off this weekend as well. And one of our favorites, the vice president of operations there of the UFL. It is Daryl Moose Johnston. Moose, how are you?
I'm awesome. How you guys doing?
Doing great. I want to compliment you first and foremost. I saw you on the Fox News morning show yesterday, and you did an outstanding job. But the sport coat that you had on absolutely won me over. My wife walked in the room. I said, "Babe, I don't know. Do you think I can pull that off?" But that was a great looking jacket that you were wearing yesterday. I just wanted to compliment you. I appreciated it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Always have fun with the style.
Very nice. All right, so we're going into another season of the UFL, kind of compare and contrast, Moose, in regards to where you were last year at this time and where you are right now as you're getting ready for kickoff.
Yeah, last year was different because of the merger, and we knew we were going to have an upgrade in talent across the board, just because we were going from 16 down to 8, and that proved to be the case. We recognized it during onboarding as we got ready to start training camp. We watched it through camp and into the regular season. Our head coaches talked a lot about, not really having a clear-cut, advantage with matchups as much as they had in seasons past. They felt the windows were a little bit tighter that they were throwing into. So definitely an upgrade in talent. So we were wondering what was going to happen this year. But I really do feel that we bumped it up again. I think our coaches, the most common phrase this season was, cuts are going to be very hard when you're getting down to that last 2 or 3. Are we going to need, that 5th wide receiver, that 3rd tight end, that 3rd running back? How are we going to allocate that on special teams? So it sounds like we're continuing to pull in players that now have a belief and a trust in what we're building with the spring football platform. And when we talked to our GMs a little bit, they said, we've got a couple of guys on our roster that I don't think would have been here 2 years ago, just because of what the league has done and the success that we've had. So those are some great things on the football side. And then I really think, Russ Brandon did a great job with a traditional cadence in the off season and trying to really get a presence into each of our home markets. I know he's still not satisfied with where we're at that point, and that we need to be more of a year-round presence, and not let people forget about spring football and then try to restart it every year as we get closer to the start of training camp. So I'm thinking that, as we get into next year, we'll even get better there. But from when you look at everything outside of football and where we are this year compared to where we were last year, I think that's where you see the biggest jump and the most growth.
And you kind of outlined it from a player standpoint and from a player representation standpoint, the competitive of the league. And then you have the success stories of guys who have come and they played in the spring league and then they've landed on NFL rosters. And that's gotta certainly help as far as perception. But overall, just from people who were skeptics and said there's no way this is going to make it. Look at spring football. We've seen it before. Well, now you've got several years of success and a great product under your belt. How much have you noticed that perception has changed from some of those naysayers?
A lot. It helps to have the ownership that we have behind us when you talk about Fox and Redbird Capital and Danny Garcia and Dwayne Johnson. Everybody is all in on this. So that allows us the ability to tell that story to anybody. But I think where we see it is this year we had to replace 2 offensive line coaches, and we replaced them with Mark Colombo and Tom Cable. These are guys with NFL experience. Mark was a player, then a coach. It shows you the quality of the coaches that are interested in being a part of the UFL. We touched on it a little bit with the players, but we're also getting that from the coaches. So that's been an area where we've seen it. And again, just going back to, some of these guys that were here, I mean, Andy Isabella, and this probably speaks volumes to the talent that we have. Andy Isabella, a former first-round draft pick of the Arizona Cardinals, was cut by the St. Louis Battlehawks and was not picked up via waivers. So that shows you how comfortable everybody is in the wide receiver room when you have somebody that has a history that Andy has, and yet he could not find his way onto a roster here in the UFL. And if you would have told me that, 2 years ago, I wouldn't have believed it. And we've got a couple of guys like that. We've got a lot of guys from 21, that draft class that had to work through the pandemic, and maybe the interview process wasn't as convincing as it was in years past when it's person to person, face to face in the same room, and you're reading eyes and you're reading body language. There's a lot. We've got several draft picks, higher round draft picks in our league from 2021. And I think that's a reflection of how challenging it was for the NFL personnel departments to get a really good feel on players getting ready for that draft. And so we're seeing a lot of those guys who have bounced around from team to team. They've been in the NFL, but they just haven't been able to find that consistent home. now they're down with us here in the UFL, hoping to get back to that NFL opportunity.
Talking to Moose Johnston, the VP of Operations for the UFL, as they get ready for the season kickoff coming up this weekend. All right, so when the UFL fans tune in this weekend, they're going to see some new rules. Kind of give us the 411 on some of these rule changes, including a new kickoff formation.
Yeah, the one that everybody wants to talk about, and that's on me. I am a traditionalist when it comes to the kickoff. I did not think the NFL would go with the dynamic kickoff the second year, but when you looked at the data that came back from this past season, they had the lowest concussion rate that they've had since they started tracking it in 2016. So, that was important to us, and that's something that we discussed. If we ever take a look at the medical data and we see something that we have to change course, we will. And it's one of the things I love about being a part of the UFL is we don't have egos. We do what we think is right at the time, and if something better is proven to us moving forward, then we'll adjust and move that way. So we have gone to the dynamic kickoff. We are going to try and encourage more returns than the NFL had. They're a little bit over 30%. We were a little bit over 90% last year. So we will kick off from the 30 instead of the 35 to make it a little bit harder to drive it into the end zone for a traditional touchback. And if you get the traditional touchback, we're going to take it out to the 35 instead of the 30. So we're trying to incentivize the kickers to get it into the field of play, to try and, force that return. And I think when you watch the NFL last year, we noticed it around week 10. I think everybody kind of got comfortable with it. And if you have a good kicker who can move the ball and kind of hit some of these unique kicks, and you can land it in that landing area and have it go into the end zone and it's first and 10 at the 20-yard line, that's a big deal. Drive start is going to be something that we're going to keep an eye on. But if your kicker is not really good at doing that, adept at doing that, if that ball goes short of the landing zone or goes out of bounds, it's going to be all the way out to the 40. So we're doing some things to encourage returns. We're doing some things that will give you good field position if you execute it, poor field position if you don't execute it. So I really like some of the tweaks that Mike Pereira and Dean Blandino put on it. The other one, which is something that Legacy XFL had that we really enjoyed last year. We were more traditional with our challenges in Legacy USFL, but Legacy XFL had the Super Challenge, which at any point during the course of the game, you could challenge anything, but you had to be able to say what you were going to challenge. And we saw it happen a couple of times last season, and it was huge impacts during the course of the game. I think one of the biggest ones that happened was it was week 1, I think, maybe week 2, but it was San Antonio, DC. And there was a touchdown by the DC defenders, but San Antonio threw the challenge and said the right tackle moved early. And come to find out he did. So that touchdown was nullified and there was turnover on the next play. So the way that our staffs have kind of used this is because we have video on the sideline, when it gets into that critical area, there's guys on the coaching staff that are looking for that play. Was that a false start? Was that an illegal formation? Was that pass interference? And so they were able to get that real-time data off of our iPads that we're using on the sideline. So it's great to watch our coaches kind of take one of the technology things that we've introduced into spring football and use it one of our rule changes to really maximize the impact. And since it was such a great thing last year, and a lot of the coaches came to us and said, listen, I'd love to be able to use that early in the game when I see a call, or I think I'm gonna miss that call and it's going to shift the momentum that we've established. But I just, I worry about not having that ability late in the game when there could be something game changing. So this season, if you're correct on your first super challenge and you have a timeout left, we're going to give you a second one. So that'll allow our coaches to be able to use something in the first half that they feel is critical. And then still have the ability to make that key challenge late in the game when the game's on the line.
Hanging out with Vice President Operations of UFL, Daryl Moose Johnson. He joins us here on 3 Man Front. All of our guests join us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Love the new Friday night slot and adding that to the weekend schedule this season. We're going to get at least one every single Friday night of the 10-week regular season. Moose, just kind of nerd out with us for a little bit. What went into that decision-making process, and how many more new viewers do you believe that you can pull in by having that Friday night slot?
We used it a little bit year one, and we probably 3 Friday night games, and it was effective then. And then after that, Fox went to their Friday night package for college football during the fall, and then they did a Friday night package for college basketball during the winter. So they're allowing us to kind of tap into that program that's already been established for spring football. And I think the ability for us just to have more options in the spring to get it off some of those busy days on the weekends or the holidays on the weekends that we deal with, whether it's Easter, Mother's Day, Masters weekend, if we can get off that Saturday, Sunday routine sometimes and open up that Friday night window, we feel it's going to be advantageous for us. And it's something that's very consistent. So, I think that's one of the other things. Everybody's going to know that we're there on Friday night, and the consistency, because we didn't have that in year one. I think we only had 3 Friday night games, so there was not anything you could kind of lock into place and look at the Birmingham schedule and say, yeah, week 3. We're having the home opener on Friday night, so let's make sure that we get our tickets for that game, because that'll be a great opportunity to go out and cheer on the Stallions. So we're thrilled. We're absolutely thrilled because of the consistency that gives us as an option through the spring.
I know you guys are looking for the consistency, and you have the 8 franchises all back from last year. There has been talk about expansion of the UFL. What is the timetable there, Moose, on the UFL? And I understand that there have been active cities across this country that are interested in potentially hosting a UFL franchise.
Yeah, that's been the flattering part. We've had a number of different cities inquire, and very different. When you look at the cities that have reached out to us and inquired about expansion, so I think that is another reason why we're really, really excited and confident about what we're building with the UFL. Expansion is definitely something that we want to be able to do. It shows the strength, it shows the commitment, it validates the faith and the trust that the coaches, the agents, the players have in coming to join our league. But we've got to be smart when we do it. So that'll be one of the decisions that we make here moving forward, and hopefully here in the near future. Is number one, are we going to do that? And if so, when? When is the best timing for us? And then getting back into these different markets that have reached out and expressed an interest, trying to find out exactly where is the best place for the UFL to land in some of those markets.
Busy time for you. It's a fun time for us with our Birmingham Stallions, our hometown team. Giddy up, going to try to make it 4 straight, which I don't know. That's got to be right up there. We're talking about UCLA title run, Chicago Bulls. You just name out your favorite dynasty. I think the Stallions are certainly right there.
Yeah, I dug into this just recently. We had a big media day yesterday, so dug into it. Boston Celtics, back in the day, they did 8 in a row. And then we've got the New York Islanders, we've got the Montreal Canadiens. We have the Houston Comets, which is something that Birmingham has the opportunity to do this year. The Houston Comets from the WNBA won the first 4 championships of that league. So the Birmingham Stallions actually have the opportunity to join the Houston Comets as one of only 2 teams who won their league's championships the first 4 years. So some really great stuff. And then just, kind of coming off the Super Bowl with Kansas City chasing 3, Birmingham already having done 3, and for them to go out and now do 4 would just be a huge feather in their cap. So I know that the Stallions fans and the Horsemen got to be excited about that, and just some really cool stuff that Skip Holtz and the team has an opportunity to accomplish this year.
Season begins this Friday. Get St. Louis taking on Houston on Fox with the 7:00 kick. Saturday, San Antonio and Arlington also on Fox, a 3:00 Central kick, and then Michigan and Memphis on Sunday. And you get the Stallions and the DC Defenders coming up at 2 on Sunday as well. Moose, we appreciate it. We're excited. Thank you for taking time with us. Giddy up, and here's to another successful year of the UFL.
Yeah, look forward to talking to you guys during the season. Giddy up.
Giddy up. That is Daryl Moose Johnston, VP of Operations for the UFL, United Football League. All of our guests join us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
The way to keep the dangerous mold and mildew and wood rot out of your house is to make sure that your crawl space has been encapsulated properly. That's where APS comes in. And the engineers at APS, they can come to your house and give you a free estimate and free assessment of what's going on in your house if you have a wet basement or that crawl space is not being properly taken care of. The number is 205-951-9717 to Alabama Professional Services. You can start protecting your home today with APS, established in 1977 to solve the most challenging issues around your home. Again, the number is 205-951-9717. Again, they can rid you of that dangerous mold and mildew and those things that can bring damage to your house, your health of your home, the health of the people living in your home, and your home's foundation's health. Because once that foundation is gone, then you've got all sorts of other problems. So let APS take care of that crawl space encapsulation with their award-winning encapsulation system, 205-951-9717, or visit their website at alabamaprofessional.com.
Plenty left to go. We got Kevin Kugler talking Sweet 16 in the next hour. Mike Rodak covers the Crimson Tide as well. It is a Wednesday edition of Three Man Front. Glad you're with us on Jocks 94.5.
Always great catching up with Moose Johnston. Some interesting conversation there with Moose. Rule changes, expansion of the UFL. It will all get underway this Friday night as Fox Television will have its first ever Friday night. Well, they had it a couple years ago, but this is more of a schedule every single week since the WWE left Fox for Netflix. This is what you're getting now in regards to the UFL. The NCAA basketball tournament television ratings, Molly, came out yesterday, and they're up, and that was the topic of our Twitter poll question today.
Yeah, so today we asked which best describes your viewing habits this year for the NCAA tournament. Is it more than last year, the same as last year, or you're only watching the Alabama and Auburn games? And right now winning with 56% of our voters saying about the same as last year, 32% saying more than last year, and 12% saying only Alabama or Auburn.
So the tournament itself is up 3% from last year. And matter of fact, the first segment of games is the most watched in about 20 plus years. So the public, they are consuming it. And it's interesting that our audience out there is basically watching about as much as they did last year, in which Alabama made it to the Final Four and Auburn was unceremoniously disbanded the first weekend of the tournament.
Yeah, I wonder what that number in the Birmingham market will be. Both teams make the Final Four.
Be pretty high.
Would that, if they...
I have not yet to be able to take that number and equate it, because I always like to try to equate it to what it would be from a football standpoint. I also just read that over 1,250 college basketball players are in the transfer portal.
That's wild.
Since Monday at 12:01 a.m., 1,250 have gone into the portal, and that's not even including the 16 teams that are left in the tournament.
No, and they've got their people looking at these guys that are coming in the portal, and a lot of them don't know who's going to go, who's going to test the NBA waters, who's going to transfer. You think it's easier for a college basketball coach or harder?
Well, it was interesting because I saw an interview with Bruce Pearl yesterday, and Bruce was not really that bent out of shape about the timing or the calendar of the transfer portal. He just said it is what it is.
It is what it is, Pat.
Yeah, just kind of move on. Coming up next hour on the show, Kevin Kugler, the pride of the University of Nebraska. He will join us at 12:15. He'll be on the call in Indianapolis for Westwood One Radio this weekend. Mike Rodak from Newark, New Jersey. Peter Raderkus, who covers the Auburn Tigers. A lot of basketball talk, and hour number 3 straight ahead.
Hour number 3, 3-man front here on this Wednesday. It is the Sweet 16. Voice of the Crimson Tide, Chris Stewart, courtesy of Craneworks, joining us in the 11 o'clock hour. Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider, breaking down who he likes, where the smart money is going for this college basketball weekend. And it would not be college basketball, Pat, without Twin Peaks. They brought the Lodge to us today.
Yes, they did. We had a great time out there on Thursday and Friday, and I can smell from down the hallway. They have brought some great vittles for us for lunch today. It's fantastic.
They have. And thank you to two of our team members from Twin Peaks, Valeria, who took care of us in our section. Hopefully, I don't know, should we apologize? We had some listeners there. Hopefully, they weren't too rogue. And also, fine, Lauren is here with us as well. But Valeria,
hey.
Everybody was good? Yeah. Everybody behaved themselves?
Oh, yeah. Y'all weren't too bad.
Too bad.
Y'all were on your best behavior. Y'all were great.
Okay.
We had a good time.
That's good.
You had a good time?
No, we had a great time.
Yay.
Always do.
That was awesome.
So let me ask you guys, how crazy is it? I mean, I know with big sporting events, you guys are slammed all the time, but especially tournament time, was it any different? Is it more busy? Is it more hectic, more crazy?
Are you referring to basketball or anything?
Basketball, this last in what happened with the tournament.
I would say, yeah, it gets pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy?
Yeah.
It does. Definitely at night, whenever we have our night games, I'd say, it can get pretty crazy in there, pretty rowdy. But overall, I mean, I think we have a good time. It kind of just,
the energy
environment.
is good.
Yeah, the energy, it makes our job fun.
Yeah.
Do
everybody's really
do you
excited.
have to have a pregame talk with yourself about some of these? I don't know. They're your patrons, they're your customers, but sometimes folks can get crazy when you mix sports and passion when they're following their teams. Do you have to, Lauren? Do you have to give yourself a pep talk every now and then?
I'm so sorry. Can you repeat your question? Because she was just in.
No, just some
I'm
of
so
the days where it is crazy and it is madness inside of the lodge. We got to see it on the first and the second day of the tournament, where you have a lot of folks that are coming in, they're bellying up and they're waiting. Just do you have to remind yourself that, hey, these are people, especially here in Birmingham, Alabama, and they're passionate about their sports, and you kind of give them a little bit longer leash.
Yeah, I like I was saying, just like the energy of everything, because everybody's so excited. It's nice to like watch everybody just get so excited about their team, like maybe winning, maybe losing. I would say like a pep talk to myself is just like, everybody's just coming out to have a good time. So just make sure that they're happy. They're taking shots, drinking beer, like just try to get them going, especially if their team is losing, because then they're really sad.
Well, the good news is that both Alabama and Auburn were victorious over the weekend.
Right.
So most of those fans were pretty happy. Is there one particular sporting event throughout the year that you guys look more forward to, or is there one that you go, oh man, I can't believe that's coming up this weekend? This might be kind of.
I prefer football season.
Okay.
Over basketball season, personally.
Yeah,
okay.
I think the Iron Bowl is probably like one of the most, important
Anticipated
things, that
ones.
we have going on.
So more Iron Ball or anything football related.
Exactly.
Any of the really big major games are really, really fun because it gets really packed out. Like everybody's just kind of standing around, and like we had this one guy that like just got so excited. He just started like just doing laps around
the restaurant.
Around the restaurant. It was so
that's what I'm talking
crazy. He was
about.
having so much fun. I'm like, oh.
Oh, bless his heart.
Take their shirts off and
Yeah.
run around.
Do a little woo woo.
Taking their shirts off and running around.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow. I
People
did
get
not
crazy
realize
in
that
there
was a
sometimes.
normal thing that happened.
I didn't either, aside from the 29-degree teeth chattering beer.
That is
Yeah.
that is correct.
A nice cold Coors Light. It's the best.
Oh, yeah.
Best
There you
for
go.
a football.
There you
Football
go.
game.
But it's not just March Madness. We got the Masters coming up, and just basically any kind of sport that you can think about. We never run out of sports these days.
No, we pretty much have something going on all the time.
And I mean, at Twin Peaks, we're always showing everything.
You can lean into the mic a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
No, I was just saying that at Twin Peaks, we show everything. Like, I don't think there's one channel that we don't show. They're
We
always-
even have ping pong. If you're a ping pong, if you're
Whoa,
a
whoa,
ping
whoa, whoa,
pong,
whoa. Wait a second. Is it the Czechoslovakian ping pong?
couldn't tell you, but people
If it's-
really do.
If it's Czech table tennis, you just got you
But
a
people
new regular
really
right
do
there.
like try to put it on a ping pong tournament, and we're like, okay, if that's
Do they really?
that's your thing, we'll put on some ping pong.
It's a gambling thing.
I could see
Pat's
that.
not watching it for the
For the competition?
competition.
Maybe not.
Or for the sport. But we got the Masters coming up. I wonder what is the
Now, are they-
Masters crowd a little more subdued?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The golf crowd, are they just
They're very calm.
okay?
They're not. They don't have as much energy as like the faster sports or like
Mhm.
I don't know if you'd call it faster sports, but just like football, basketball. I feel like those are our like more energetic fans. Our golf fans are very, laid back. Soccer fans very laid back.
Mhm.
So I would say basketball.
Soccer fans laid back. Oh,
I'd say
That's different.
they don't
Yeah.
get as great. I just feel like maybe because we're in the South, but they just don't get as hype as like a foot. Like if anybody comes in during like a big football game, like you're gonna see how crazy the energy gets and how much fun everybody's having.
right.
And then if you show up to like a soccer game, everybody's just, watching their soccer, but they're not like yelling and
Yeah.
like getting really, really into
Call your
it.
teammates at the Liverpool location. See if they say the
Oh,
same
and
thing.
that one's different. They're more hyped for soccer.
Yeah, they
I
get a
gotcha.
little bit crazy over there. Lauren and Valeria from Twin Peaks there in Hoover joining us here on Three Man Front to talk about all the exciting things they have happening, not only during March Madness, but we got Stallions. They're kicking off this weekend with the UFL. We get 10 weeks of that. We have the Masters, the SEC baseball tournament is coming up in May, and that's a mainstay. And I know that y'all get a lot of fans that come into the lodge for that. But if there is anything that folks, because it's, how do I paint this? There was a lot of different people groups that we saw, and it was not just men that we saw on Thursday and Friday. I mean, there were men who brought in their wives. There were guys that came in with their girlfriends, just buddies that came in. It's not a particular place for just a particular type of person,
It's
correct?
a family restaurant.
It's a family restaurant.
No, we saw fathers and their sons because some schools were out on spring break last week and they were in there watching games together.
I do have to know this. How many dads bring in their son without mom, and they're like, all right, well, it's kind of
Like
a rite of passage for
sneakily?
Junior here.
Like sneakily?
Yeah.
Or just in general?
Both.
It's pretty common, I would say. I mean, honestly, most of the tables that I get are going to be, dads with their sons. Now, I don't know if they're single dads or married dads.
Yeah.
But, I mean, at the end of the day, I think they're just there to have a good time and just kind of, I don't think they have any bad intentions. They're just there to have a good time.
Yeah, they're
and-
usually like just watching sports or just like eating.
Yeah.
But I feel like we get a really good mix. Like we'll have like, older ladies there that
Yeah.
have like their mimosas or little $6
Right.
mimosas, have a little like party, and they're fun, they're cute. We get a really good mix of everybody.
I have to ask you this, with all the sporting events going on, whether people have money on it or they're just big fans, do you have a situation where you will have patrons that literally will cry if their team loses? Do you ever have to anticipate that, especially in Alabama and Auburn game?
I don't know if you were there that Saturday.
Oh, boy.
We had a guy. I don't want to say. I don't know what you can say on air. But he got so mad. I don't remember who was playing, but it was a basketball game, and he got so upset. Like he was at the bar, and he got so upset he started running around and like just screaming, and then he kept falling down. It was honestly really hilarious. Were you not there that Saturday?
No, I
it was
wasn't.
so.
So it was a
so fun.
basketball game.
It was a basketball game. I know that. It was really funny, but some people do. They'll cry.
Yeah,
they'll get
they'll
upset.
get emotional. You'd be surprised. I mean, some people, especially if they're going for different teams, a lot of arguments go on, and sometimes it can turn into fights. That's all.
Yeah.
One of the main reasons why we always have security there, like
Yes.
whenever we have big games like that, because you never know. I mean, fights go on, and it
It's a
gets
safe
crazy.
space.
It's a family restaurant.
We're gonna keep you safe. You're just
That's right.
you're gonna get dinner and like 2 shows.
There you go.
I did want to pay a compliment because Valeria, when you were waiting on our table last week, it said Miss Twin Peaks 2024. So it's a little belated, but congratulations.
Well, thank you. Yes, I was Miss Twin Peaks last year. I had a blast. I got to go to Arlington. They flew me out. I stayed in a hotel. I got to meet so many amazing people. I plan on doing it again this year, hopefully, fingers crossed, if I get it again. But honestly, it's such a great experience. I get to meet like different girls that won at other Twin Peaks locations, and it's awesome. It really is.
Do you guys have a favorite team in the state that you follow? Are you sports fans?
I'm gonna go Alabama.
Okay.
I'm an Auburn fan.
classic.
So
Okay.
we're rivals over here, I
So
guess.
see, that was smart bringing in an
Mhm.
Alabama and an Auburn
Yeah, that's
fan.
great. They know what they're doing. If
Yeah.
there's an underrated
Representation.
menu item, what would people need to try this? We have one of our listeners that tells us the pot roast is unbelievable. But is there another menu item that's super underrated that people don't think about?
Yes. The Chipotle chicken.
Oh, I was gonna
The
say that
Chipotle
one.
chicken. It
That's
is
good.
so
Okay.
delicious. Blackened chicken with our Southwest pico on top. It comes with our creamy mashed potatoes
down.
and broccoli. Absolutely the best thing on the menu.
That's
I
cool.
love it.
Well, Langem and I, we're going to be back there for the Masters Week.
Yes.
And I believe for
You going to wear your green jacket?
Yes, I'm going to wear my green jacket.
Yeah, he's got a green jacket. So the Masters green jacket, the winner, we have our Masters pool here within the show, and we had a actual Master jacket. We can show it to you. But yeah, you have to wear that. That's part of it.
Okay. We'll be back. So, yeah, we're looking forward to it and then looking forward to digging in some lunch here in a minute. So,
anything you need to tell our listeners before you go?
Come have a cold beer at Twin Peaks.
And behave
Come
yourself.
have a Coors Light with me. My name's Lauren.
And my name's Valeria. Y'all can come see us anytime.
And
okay.
we have $4.99 shots.
Okay, $4.99 shots, beer buckets,
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah. Thank y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome.
Always
Thank you for
fun.
having us.
Oh, thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
All right. More three-man front. This is Jocks 94.5. It's 12:15. Jocks 94.5. Welcome back in. Pat Landrum, Molly with you until 2 o'clock. Take you up to the Paul Feinbaum Show. Our next voice that you're going to hear on this radio station, you can hear him throughout the NCAA basketball tournament on Westwood One. You can also see him during the college basketball season. He does all sorts on the Big Ten Network, Fox Sports, FS1. Kevin Kugler, the pride of the University of Nebraska. And Molly told me to tell you, or we had to say that in your intro, Kevin. So
Go Big Red.
Yeah, Molly really kind of took over the pride of Nebraska when she left Nebraska. So I mean, it was a bittersweet day for me to no longer be the pride of Nebraska. So I'll gladly play second fiddle to Miss Molly. She's got that title now.
Well, we appreciate the fact that you're joining us today. And before we start talking about what's going on this weekend, I want to go back because you were there and you got to see BYU up close and personal. And we think that this is going to be a really good game against Alabama tomorrow night. It's going to be a track meet, and we believe, between these two offenses. Just kind of give us a 4-1-1 on this Cougar team for our Alabama fans out there.
They're really an exciting group. They've really been good second chance points of late, so keep an eye on that. They're not a great defensive team, but they're a really good shooting team. Yegor Demon is their freshman point guard. He previously was with sort of the secondary club of Real Madrid. He was going to go up to the top level and then decided to play college ball. He is a 6'9" point guard, little slight. You could probably use 15 to 20 more pounds on him in the weight room to really make things better for Yegor Demon. But he's what makes this go, along with Richie Saunders. Richie Saunders is the only player in the entire conference to average 15 points per game, shooting the ball at over 50%, shooting at 40% from three. He has been on fire to close the season. And then they've got two bigs inside that they rotate. Keba Keita, 6'9" junior from Mali, who came in from Utah, and Vuceni Traore, who was an honorable mention all Big 12 pick with BYU last year. They're not overly tall. You're talking 6'9" for Keita, 6'6" for Traore. But imagine if, I don't know, one of Alabama's better offensive linemen slimmed down a little bit and decided to play the post and you tried to move him. That's Traore. He is just this giant, wide-bodied individual that doesn't budge at all. And then you filter in a guy like Mawat Mag, who was Rutgers' best defensive player over the last couple of years that they brought in as a transfer. He's the other starter. They're a real interesting team. They play at pace. It's a real NBA style because their head coach was an NBA assistant for several years and was a guy who was ticketed to be an NBA head coach when this BYU opportunity came up. So they'll be an interesting game. It'll be an interesting challenge, and I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I don't know what the over is, but the over feels really good here.
What about physicality? Because that's something I brought up, Kevin, to Pat, and we saw it in Auburn and Creighton. We saw it in Florida and UConn, and just those particular styles and playing that grueling SEC schedule where a lot of fouls were called during the regular season. You get those physical teams. Maybe you don't think of Alabama as being that ultra physical team, but they can certainly do it, and they've had to play teams that's what they do. If Alabama took we're going to be more physical than you approach, could that be a recipe for success for Nate Oates and the Tide?
Hey, BYU is not going to be afraid to be physical. From what I've seen from them this year and what I saw from them this past weekend, you're talking about a player who got ejected for an elbow in the future, one of his opponent's futures this weekend. So they're not afraid to be physical. Traore is a big physical player. Keba Keita is big and physical. If Alabama wants to get physical, BYU is going to come back and say, look, the Big 12 with Kansas and Houston and Iowa State, we'll get physical too. If it gets to be a physical game, I wouldn't necessarily give Alabama a significant edge there. I think Alabama is more diverse talent-wise, but I do think BYU is not afraid to get up and down and run with them.
We're talking to Kevin Kugler from Westwood One. Fox Sports joins us here on Three Man Front as we're previewing the Sweet 16. So you got to see BYU up close and personal. Now you are heading to Indianapolis, Indiana, as you're going to get a pair of SEC teams. You got Kentucky and Tennessee. Give us your thoughts on these two teams meeting once again. They battled during the regular season. Now they're playing for a right to go to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, and it's been such a Kentucky lopsided affair during the regular season. A couple of close wins, but wins nonetheless. They've shot the ball really well. against the Vols, and just wonder if maybe they don't have Tennessee's number. I mean, look what Chaz Lanier, though, what he's done, what Zakai Ziegler's done during the course of the season and over the course of this tournament. Rick Barnes has a really talented backcourt, and if you're the believer that backcourts make the difference when you get deep into the NCAA tournament, that certainly gives Tennessee an edge over most teams, but always playing so well for Kentucky and has all season long. And to me, it's the health of Lamont Butler. Is he fully healthy? Looks like he's doing okay. I know he's battled the injuries back and forth all season long. Kobe Brea has certainly done a nice job finding the range from outside, a 44% shooter, which is what Mark Pope was looking for when he brought him in from Dayton. But I love the backcourt matchup in this game. I'm fascinated to see how it plays out, and I'm fascinated to see if Tennessee can shoot the ball any better against Kentucky than they did in the 2 games in the regular season. They're not going to win if Kentucky holds them again to 22% from 3 like they have in the 2 games during the regular season. Tennessee's going to have to hit more threes than that. Lanier's going to have to be a bigger factor than that if Tennessee's going to win this game.
And playing the same team for a third time, and I know that will be a storyline that a lot of people like to play up, but Kevin, it's just wild to me to think about these 2 programs, and really the pressure all lies, in my opinion, with Tennessee and Rick Barnes and getting to a Final Four as opposed to Mark Pope and Kentucky. It almost feels like they're playing with house money right now. Your thoughts on that?
I don't disagree with you. It's funny. I was going through stuff again this morning and reading articles and just thinking about this Kentucky team. And as weird as it is to say for a team that's been to 34 Elite Eights, you almost feel like if you're a Kentucky fan, and I know that's I'm probably saying this and it's probably going to come back to bite me because Kentucky fans have long held a high bar and a high standard. But it does feel like that if Kentucky didn't win this game, nobody's going to go back and say, oh, Mark Pope, what a letdown. I mean, this feels like a really successful first year for a head coach. And it would be at almost any – certainly would be at Molly's and my alma mater, who's never won a tournament game in the history of the NCAA tournament. We'd be building a Mark Pope statue out front of the Pinnacle Bank Arena in downtown Lincoln if a season like this. And so I understand different standards when it comes to Kentucky basketball. But I felt the same way last week about Michigan and first-year head coach Dusty May. We had them last week in Denver, and I felt like had they lost their round of 32 game, and they didn't, but had they lost, I think I would have walked out of that thinking, boy, what a great first year for Michigan. And they certainly have a high standard for their basketball program with what John Beilein did for so many years there. So I kind of feel the same way with Kentucky. It doesn't feel like a loss would be as devastating as it might have been in other years for Kentucky basketball. Now, that said, Mark Pope, if he doesn't win this weekend, he's got to get to the Final Four next year because that's the standard at Kentucky, obviously.
All right, so you've got Kentucky and Tennessee. That's the first game at 6:39 on Friday. The nightcap, a team that you're pretty familiar with, the Purdue Boilermakers, the 4 seed, taking on the number 1 seed, Houston Cougars. Your thoughts on Purdue and, my goodness, the Big Ten, almost as good as the SEC getting teams in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, it's really – you're starting to see the power conference flex its muscle when we get to this stage. And you saw it in college football. You're seeing it in college basketball. The SEC and the Big Ten are really the two standards now for college athletics. And look, Houston is such a difficult team to play. And I think that's the challenge that anybody has, and that's the challenge Matt Painter has in playing a team like Houston. They've got a 15-game winning streak. They're 28-1 since they started the season 4-3. And it's not like they played a bunch of softies. They played through a really good schedule in the Big 12 Conference. Kelvin Sampson's defense is always the story, but he learned over the last couple of years that defense wasn't enough. They've been one of the best defensive teams in college basketball for years and years. But if you don't score some, you're not going to win games. And he learned that the last few years. And so he brings back the best scoring defense in the nation, but he brings back one of the best three-point shooting teams in the nation now, which is something completely different for Houston basketball. To have a team that couples second in the nation three-point shooting with best in the nation scoring defense, that's a pretty deadly combination. And L.J. Cryer is the name that you'll hear a lot, the former Baylor Bear who came in last year with Houston. He's been tremendous. He had 30 in the win over Gonzaga. He's the straw that stirs the drink. And for Purdue, it's really a two-headed monster. When you throw in Fletcher Lawyer, you get your third. But Braden Smith, the Big Ten Player of the Year, is the point guard. He runs the show for Purdue. And Trey Kaufman-Wren, a very different post than what Purdue fans got used to over the years with Zach Edey, and so it's a very different team. They're a great shooting team. They're not a great rebounding team, but Trey Kaufman-Renn is a tremendous ball player. He figures out ways to score. He draws a ton of fouls. He's taken a giant step. He was second in the Big Ten in scoring this year during conference play. Only Nebraska's Bryce Williams was better than Trey Kaufman-Renn from a scoring standpoint. So they've got enough to get it done. They're a very different Purdue team, though, than what we saw last year that made it to the Final Four in the national championship game, because they don't have Zach Edey. He's making money and playing well in the NBA right now. So it's a different look Purdue team, but they're not going to be afraid to defend a little bit, and they can shoot a little bit. As high scoring as I think the first game could be, this Purdue-Houston game in the Midwest could just be a real grinder in the second game.
Kevin, I do want to say with the Big Ten, we got a couple of matchups involving Big Ten versus SEC coming up State Farm Arena on Friday. Let's talk about the nightcap first. The Auburn Tigers taking on Michigan. Right now, Auburn around a 9-point favorite. You know this Michigan team. Potential matchup, maybe some advantages that the Maize and Gold might have, or the Maize and Blue might have, or do you see Auburn being that team that at least gets them through to Sunday?
Well, I love the matchup of Vlad Golden and Janai Broom if they are indeed matched up most of the night, because they're very different posts. Obviously, Janai can score and rebound with anybody. And Vlad Golden, the 7-1 post from Russia, who came in from FAU, was the most outstanding player this year in the Big Ten tournament. He's just a beast. And what's different about Michigan is that they initiate so much offense with their other 7-footer, Danny Wolf, who transferred in from Yale. He led the Big Ten in double-doubles this season. He's second on the team in assists, and he's 7 foot, 250 pounds, sees the floor exceptionally well, can be a little turnover prone, but that's going to be real interesting to see what Bruce Pearl does from a matchup standpoint with Wolf, because he'll play on the perimeter a lot, and they'll use him a ton to initiate offense on the perimeter, and they are really good in pick and roll, going big to big from Wolf underneath to Golden. It's a tough matchup for a lot of teams, especially when you're not used to playing a big that can pass and a big that sits down in the post. Now, Auburn's used to seeing a lot of bigs. I don't know that you see too many anywhere in college basketball that can handle the basketball. Wolf will bring it up the floor. He'll dribble behind his back. He's got a great handle. Again, he's a little bit turnover prone, especially in skip passes, wing to wing, but he's going to initiate a lot of pick and roll offense, and it was blown up quite a bit in the first weekend. UC San Diego did a real good job against it, and Dusty May's team had to figure out different ways to win. But they've struggled in the backcourt. That's really the area that Auburn, I think, has a significant advantage, because this is not a great Michigan backcourt. They really need somebody who can create their own shot offensively in the backcourt. They don't have that. And so they've really had to rely on what they call Area 51, which is Vlad Golden, jersey number 50, Danny Wolf, jersey number 1. Those two bigs, if you shut them down or slow them down, you're probably beating Michigan.
Kevin, one more game I want to ask you about. It's another SEC on Big Ten matchup, and it's Michigan State taking on the surprise team coming out of Oxford, Mississippi. It's their first Sweet 16 since 2001. It's only the second in the program's history. The Rebels and Chris Beard taking on Tom Izzo.
Well, and Tom Izzo has seen Chris Beard before and is very aware of what he can do. So I'm sure he has spent a long week trying to prepare for this group. One thing that Michigan State has done and what has set them apart this year, and you'll see that, you saw it in each of their games in the tournament, they're not a team that plays from ahead early a lot. The strength of Michigan State is their depth. Fifth in the country or so, averaging around 35 points per game off the bench this season. It's a team that goes 9 to 10, even 11 deep with players. They filter them in constantly, and they try to wear you down. It's a battle of attrition when you play Tom Izzo's 30th Spartans team. They're really, really deep. He loves his backcourt. He loves Jaden Akins. He loves Jeremy Fears. But the biggest difference with Michigan State's surge late, and they won the Big Ten this year by 3 full games in the regular season. So this is not a team that was a surprise. They coasted to a championship. But it's Jace Richardson, the son of longtime Michigan Stater and NBA player Jason Richardson. He came into the starting lineup in early February and really blossomed, moved into a double-digit scoring role, was sort of an instigator with them offensively. Tom Izzo says he's the most mature freshman he's ever had at that age, and he shows it. He's incredibly calm, cool. He looks like a guy who has played his entire life with a dad who played in the NBA and high major college basketball. So Jace Richardson is the difference with Michigan State. They're an excellent defensive team. They're a very deep team, and you have to they're trying to wear you down. You have to sustain against Michigan State. That's the key for them.
That is Kevin Kugler. You can hear him on Jocks 94.5, Westwood One. Great coverage as we get ready for the Sweet 16 here on Jocks 94.5. Kevin, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for your insight. And once again, you are the pride of the University of Nebraska, not Molly.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll take it back then. Fine. I get my endorsements back, I hope. It's raked in a lot of money for me.
That
See you
sounds
guys.
good. Thanks, Kevin. Kevin is in Indianapolis, Indiana, and he joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR needs.
Oh, Indianapolis, that's where the UAB Blazers hope to go. Hopefully they get the win tonight against UC Irvine. You can hear the game on Jocks 2 100.5 with the tip at 8 o'clock. But the watch party, that is at Ramblers Sports Bar and Grill. Green and gold fans, Blazer fans, get into Ramblers. You know where it is, 1630 2nd Avenue South near Railroad Park. And to watch the Blazers on that 283-inch projector screen tonight, the state-of-the-art audio throughout the entire house, 28 video boards and large screens. It is an upscale way to watch sports. They got a couple of pool tables too, but they have a wonderful menu. Whether it's the drinks from your favorite team like UAB, you're an Auburn fan, an Alabama fan, a fan of the SEC, they have signature cocktails that are dedicated to each team and given a little history about that program as well. But also the award-winning menu from the handhelds, the shareables, the appetizers. Also, they have great fork and knife entree items as well. It's our friends at Rambler Sports Bar and Grill, 1630 2nd Avenue South near Railroad Park. When you get in there tonight to cheer the Blazers on, make sure you tell them Landrum from Three Man Front sent you. Kevin Kugler to Mike Rodak. We'll talk Alabama with Mike. He joins us next on Three Man Front. 12:36, Mike Rodak, who covers the Alabama Crimson Tide, will preview the Tide's matchup with BYU that's coming up tomorrow from Newark. And hopefully for Tide fans, you don't see Alabama players throwing up a lot of bricks. But if you need brickwork done or maybe concrete work done, you see how I did that, Molly? Yeah, go Big Red. How about our friends at Second Generation Masonry? These are your folks for professional concrete, cinder block, and beautiful stonework. They also do stunning backyard transformations, outdoor kitchens, patios, fire pits, retaining walls, and concrete driveways. Curb appeal means everything, but enjoying your space with your family and your friends, that means the world. Every project comes with a 1-year guarantee. You can find them online at secondgenerationmasonry.com. Be sure to tell them Landrum from Three Man Front sent you.
We will ask his opinion on this breaking news story in just a moment, but it doesn't really have anything to do with us anymore. But Gary Danielson has announced his retirement. He's going to work one more season at CBS, and then he is stepping down. Charles Davis, former Tennessee Volunteer, he will replace Gary Danielson on the CBS main game with Brad Nessler.
If you had done the same trick that you did with Jim Nance.
I know, I was waiting for it.
And that
wasn't a trick.
That would have, well, it wasn't a trick. It was just the way it was the slow build up.
Oh. Mike Rodak joins us from Bama 247 on the Higginbotham hotline. Your reaction to this breaking news story, Mike, Gary Danielson out at CBS.
Yeah, I never really understood the hate with him. I mean, obviously I work for CBS now, so that's probably a disclosure I should make. So I'm a colleague of his for the last 2 years. But even before that, just going back to watching games, even before I was working in this job, like I never picked up on anything that would seem problematic. I know, fans I think are always going to want certain things in a certain perspective. This call should have been called, or this call shouldn't have been called, or whatever it might be. And I think when you're, a national commentator like that, you're obviously trying to play it down the middle. And you go on Twitter and, you can search. Yeah, people think he hates Alabama, but there's also people who think he hates a lot of other schools. So that's just kind of comes with the territory. And I've never personally met him or talked to him, so I don't have any insight there. But I always thought he got a little bit of a bad rap for no reason.
Well,
I was hoping that you guys had hung out at like a CBS boot camp or something.
I think the closest we came was after the Texas A&M game a couple years ago. We were both at the Houston Airport Marriott bar. It was Gary and Brad Nessler at one table, and me and John Talty at the other table. So one was royalty and one was the kids' table.
Well, I used to talk to Gary on a weekly basis, so maybe I'm jaded a little bit. So but anyway,
that makes sense.
Yeah, but
to each their own.
Absolutely. I just find it ironic that for all those years you had a former Purdue quarterback as the main analyst for an SEC football game, and they leave the SEC and they picked up the Big Ten, and his replacement is someone that played in the Southeastern Conference. It's just irony galore. It's all over the place.
Right. It's backwards, but so it goes.
Yeah.
Obviously, CBS doesn't have that TV deal anymore. So, you'd think it would be a Big Ten guy, but ultimately, I'm sure Charles Davis is good at college football in general, no matter where it is.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so let's talk about the Sweet 16. Let's talk about Bama taking on BYU. And I saw you tweet out a couple minutes ago some comments, and this is where I want to go first, is I want to talk about Sears and Mark's shooting. We talked last hour to the voice of the Crimson Tide, Chris Stewart, and I asked him the question about, so last year going into the tournament throughout, Mark Sears was shooting 53%. So far, he's shot 37%. He's only 1 of 9 from deep. And you go back to last year, he shot 46% from the three-point arc on his way to the Final Four, whereas in his last 10 games, he shot 30%. And he had some comments about that today. Kind of share that with our audience, what Mark had to say about his poor shooting.
Yeah, so I'm not in Newark yet. I'll be there tomorrow. But one of the things that the NCAA does really well, which is not a statement that's often made, is they do Zoom videos for these press conferences. And in fact, I'm watching Nate Oates right now with a live transcript coming out. So NCAA does that really well. And so Mark Sears was just on right before Nate and was asked it was one of the local writers in New Jersey. It wasn't anybody from Alabama, basically about, this is your worst season in terms of field goal percentage. I think he's shooting 40.7, I think, from the field. which is, he's played 5 years. That's the worst of his 5 years. And like you said, the slump going in. And, Mark's response was, to me, that hasn't been a concern. He said, I'm going to keep being me, put in the work, keep shooting. Teammates will keep finding me, but no concern here, which I think is kind of what you'd expect him to say. I think he kind of has that mentality about him that, he's not going to get flustered. He's not going to show any cracks, if you will. So, he's had games where he's not shot the ball well within the game. And then you get to the end of the game and it seems like he can put together 10, 15 points pretty quickly. Maybe not as much with the threes, but getting to the line and getting to the rim too. So I don't know, there's maybe some correlation in the last year, maybe there isn't. At the end of the day, I do think he's doing a lot of the other things well right now, which maybe he wasn't doing earlier in the season, the LSU game, obviously. And I think Nate's praised him for that. But even if he's doing those things well and you lose to BYU or you lose to Duke and Mark Sears shoots 3 of 13, that's still going to be a story. And why was that the case? Why was he not able to, hit those shots? And you think back to 2 years ago, Brandon Miller going 1 of 10 from 3 against San Diego State was obviously a big factor in that game. Granted, he was playing hurt, but you need a guy like Mark Sears to be scoring a little bit better, a little bit more efficiently than he is right now. There's no doubt about that.
The road might get tougher for every team that's representing in the Sweet 16. For Alabama, it's no different. They're taking on a BYU team some people consider the hottest team in the country in all of college basketball. When you look at the matchup, style of play, what are some things that you believe could be problematic for Nate Oates and the Crimson Tide if they don't get things buttoned up this week?
Yeah, I mean, Nate just actually had put out a stat himself. He said since February 12th, BYU's been the number 1 offense in the country in terms of efficiency, and they're top 10 for the entire season. So they've been playing better offense than anybody over the past, month and a half. So that obviously, you flip the script, that's going to go to Alabama's defense, and Alabama's defense has been better. I think they played a really good game against, St. Mary's in particular, but there's a huge difference between St. Mary's offense and BYU's offense. It's an offense that's going to love to shoot the 3. They're one of the most frequent 3-point shooting teams in the country, which Alabama also is, but kind of contrary to Alabama, they're much better at it. Alabama has not always been consistently good shooting the 3 this year. BYU is in the top 30, I believe, in the country in terms of 3-point percentage, and Richie Saunders is kind of their main shooter. He's up, I think, in the mid-40s in terms of his 3-point percentage. So being able to run them off the line, guard the 3 is going to be a big thing, but they're also good in transition is what Nate has talked about. So, if they're able to get past you and get to the rim, they can score that way as well. So, it's completely different style of game, completely different script that you're looking at, compared to the St. Mary's game. And you kind of have to do what you did last year and have your defense play at a higher level than it did the entire year, which the defense this year was not bad. It was not nearly as bad as it was last season, but they're still going to have to get better. And that's something else that Nate said is you can even get past BYU and you have Duke or Arizona, which are also very, very good offensive teams themselves. So these next 2 games are going to be much more about Alabama's defense, I think, than, the first 2 games, which are probably more dictated by the rebounding and some of the toughness and that sort of stuff.
All right, Mike, give us the one wild card on this Alabama basketball roster that they need to step up big time over the course of against BYU. And if they're fortunate enough to win that one in their Elite 8 game, which we're going ahead and mark down, it's going to be Duke.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different directions you can go. And I think I said the same thing the last time you asked me, and it always seems like there's somebody different. I feel like if you don't have Sears' scoring back, it would really help you to have LeBaron Philon be able to score, because his scoring has also not really been there either, his shooting in particular. So I think if you don't have either of those, which quite frankly they didn't against St. Mary's, they were still able to win. I don't know if you can do that against BYU. I think you need one of those. So, which guy you kind of label as the X factor, I don't know, but I think you need one of those guys to be able to shoot at a pretty high efficiency level. Or you just have something random happen, like Jaron Stevenson last year against Clemson goes off. And he's a guy that just some games you forget he's out there. I mean, stat line wise, there's a lot of zeros across the board with him. And then you have a game like Texas this year where he just goes off. So can he have one of those games? I don't know if that makes him an X factor, but to me, it's Philon. And I think the players that just talked as well in Newark within the past few minutes were asked about Saunders and who kind of defends him. And they both looked at each other and they said, well, it's going to be LeBaron. So from a defensive perspective as well, I think Philon's going to be important for defending Saunders, but also for scoring, especially if Sears isn't scoring again himself.
If you had to, I can ask you this. Some folks that cover teams I would not ask, but you're always very candid with us. If I asked you, SEC team cutting down the nets, being named national champion, or the field, who would you bet your money on right now?
Ooh, probably SEC, because I still think there's enough options that I would like the betting odds there. And I think Florida is the team that personally I would lean towards. But overall, the whole topic of like the SEC and the strength of the conference, I mean, my whole opinion on that has always been conferences don't play each other. Teams play each other. So whether one conference is strong this year or whatever, like, I just don't think it really matters all that much. To me, like, people don't walk down the street wearing an SEC hat or an SEC pullover. They wear an Alabama pullover. They wear an Auburn pullover. They're fans of teams. Teams play each other. Florida very easily could have lost that UConn game, very easily. And they're maybe the best team in the country. They just won the SEC. So the whole script would have changed if that had happened. But I don't think it really means a whole lot to me. And you could have 3 SEC teams in the Final Four. I'm pretty sure that's still possible. And that fourth team could be whoever else, and they might win it. Like, you don't know. I just don't know, to me, how much that matters, the whole SEC versus the rest of college basketball. I just don't think people are fans of conferences, to me.
Before we let you go, Mike, I have to ask you a football question, and I'm trying to wrap my head around this announcement this morning by Alabama about A-Day. It's going to be, correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to be a practice. It's an hour-and-a-half practice. It'll begin at noon, and then it'll be followed by an autograph session limited to just Yay Alabama members. But do I also understand that there's some opportunities for fans to purchase some interesting things, whether it's to be a kickoff captain or to be a game ball deliverer? Like, take me down that road. What is that about? Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, they sent the email this morning to all fans, basically, with these opportunities to buy certain things, which I think they've done over the years for A-Day games. The difference being this year, there's not an actual game. As you just said, it's a practice. I think it's going to be something closer to Fan Day, which always happens in early August. We'll have to see if it happens again this year. But, early August, you always had Fan Day, you had the practice, you had the autograph session. It's not an actual game. And that's really what this is shaping up to be. It's not crimson versus white, which it wasn't either last year. It was just offense versus defense. But the actual structure is going to be more like a practice. I think guys going through drills. Maybe you have some 11-on-11 periods. I think they're going to be very careful with what they show because I understand people can be in the stands with the cell phone camera. But yes, in terms of not the freebies, but the little extras you can buy the game ball to walk out with the game ball and give it to them for $500, but it's not a game. So I don't know how the whole game ball thing works. It's a practice ball.
So you don't get the football. You don't get the football. They hand you a football and you walk out there and you pay them $500.
Right. To walk out for, I think, for kids. And then the whole kickoff thing too. I don't know if there's really a kickoff because it's not a game. So I think all these things were kind of set up maybe with the expectation that there would be a game. And I'm sure if I was working in the marketing department there, I'd be like, what the heck? Like, I'm trying to sell all these things to fans and do my job. And the football side of it doesn't really want to have an actual game. But that's the reality, is that they're so, and part of it's the injuries. They're very thin along the offensive line. They're thin at tight end. There's certain positions where I think it's hard to field the game this time of year. But the whole reason all these spring games are getting canceled is because coaches are paranoid about the portal and guys being seen, guys performing, guys being gotten by other teams. Yeah. So that's really the main driving factor here.
That is Mike Rodak. You can follow his work at Bama247. Have a safe trip to Newark. Hopefully it'll be an extended weekend for you, Mike, and then we'll catch up with you next week as the teams get ready for the Elite Eight.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, thanks. That is Our main guy, Mike Rodak, Bama 247, joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Interesting comments by Mike Rodak about Alabama and their matchup with BYU. We'll discuss as we continue. Three-man front on a Wednesday on Jocks 94.5.
It is 12:55, Jocks 94.5. If you've missed any of our interviews, Brian Edwards, Chris Stewart, Daryl Moose Johnston, Kevin Kugler, Mike Rodak, you can download the Three Man Front podcast. We've got Peter Ratterkus who's going to join us coming up in about 10 minutes from now as we're going to preview the Auburn Tigers taking on the Michigan Wolverines. And I mentioned earlier that the transfer portal is now officially open. 1,250 plus have already entered the transfer portal. One of the biggest names right now in the transfer portal is the center from Iowa. His name is Owen Freeman. And On3 is reporting that the starting asking price for his services is $2 million.
Hey.
Oh, wow.
Michigan and Auburn are in the mix for Owen Freeman. But according to On3, it appears they are predicting that he is going to end up at Creighton.
Okay.
So $2 million for the Iowa center that Michigan and Auburn was going hot and heavy for, and On3 is reporting that they are predicting that he will end up at Creighton. He is currently at a visit there in Omaha.
I can't say I blame him though. You got Kalkbrenner leaving. McAndrew, talented freshman. I don't know. Was Neal was he a senior? I know Kalkbrenner and then the 25-year-old Ashworth.
He's done.
He's done.
Yeah.
But no, that's a really good program. $2 million?
$2 million.
Ooh,
Creighton's paying that kind of cheddar, Molly?
I didn't know that.
Well, when you got Warren Buffett sitting over there
you
on
think
the
Warren
sideline.
Buffett's giving money to Creighton's
No, he's a
basketball
Husker.
program?
He's not a J-sker.
No.
I don't know.
I think Warren's he's a fan of return on investment. And if we're looking at ROI,
Well, and
where's
I
your
do
money
think
gonna be
he is a Creighton basketball fan, so that helps.
We'll get a preview of Auburn and Michigan coming up next. AL.com's Peter Raderkus is going to join the program. That's all next in the fourth hour of the show. This is Three Man Front. Welcome back in. It's the fourth hour of Three Man Front. Pat, Molly, Landrum, Conrad will be back with us next week on the program. Hope you've been tuned in this afternoon. We've talked a lot about the Sweet 16. We've previewed Alabama taking on BYU, multiple folks we have talked to. And our next guest works for AL.com, covers the Auburn beat. Peter Raderkus joins us now on Three Man Front. Peter, I hope you're doing well on this day. And Sweet 16 is here, and this Auburn Tiger team gets through the first weekend of the tournament for the first time in some time, and the confidence level is pretty high as they head over to Atlanta.
Yeah. First of all, I appreciate y'all having me. I definitely agree. I think it was kind of the vibes are kind of at an all-time low after the Alabama State game, but, the response in the Creighton game, they played really well in that game, end up winning by double digits against a really solid Creighton team to now, they're going to have a really tough game against Michigan, and then, if they win, it'll just keep staying difficult with either Michigan State or Ole Miss.
Peter, as someone who has followed this program throughout this season, while they said all the right things, it did seem like after they wrapped up the regular season title at Rupp in Lexington, this team just didn't look quite the same. What, from your observation, from your standpoint, did you notice about this Auburn team and maybe some things you've been able to gather from those within the program?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that go into it. I think one, it also shouldn't be ignored that, after they beat Kentucky at Rupp, they had to first go on the road to Texas A&M without their starting point guard. Play a really good Alabama team, and then, they played Ole Miss, then they played Tennessee, another 2-seed after that. So, they were playing against some really good teams and playing in some really tough games. So I don't think it was necessarily all just, they kind of checked out. But at the same time, I think it's natural, Bruce Pearl talked about it, especially going to the Texas A&M game. They had just had, kind of the high of the season at that point, beating Kentucky and wrapping up the SEC to then a couple days later having to go on the road to Texas A&M in a game that didn't really mean a whole lot, and you're going on the road against a team that just is so physical that you have to be up for in order to win that game. I think Alabama just played a really good game, and that game was really close. I think both teams played well. Alabama made the plays they needed to at the end. Then Tennessee, the SEC tournament is one of those where, again, I think it was similar to Texas A&M. When you're a team like Auburn, they've pretty much already wrapped up the number one overall seed. I think it can be just hard to really get up for a conference tournament, at that point. They had all said, like, yeah, we want to keep making history, we want to win it. But, I think they did. I don't think they necessarily didn't want to win. But at the same time, I think everybody knew that, the big prize is what was coming in the NCAA tournament.
Peter, there's no secret that Johni Broome has not put together the points. He's getting his rebounds, but he's not shooting free throws very well. Is there a level of concern around the program about Johni Broome, or they say, you know what, if everybody else can step up like this and our best player not have the top game of the afternoon, that's okay. That just means that we're a very deep basketball team. Where's the level of concern right now on Johni Broome?
I don't think there's really much of any concern around Johni Broome. I think everybody knows what he's capable of. Everybody knows the kind of performances he's had. I think Creighton was just a bad matchup for him. Obviously, you're matched up against a 7'2", 270-pound All-American center like Ryan Kalkbrenner. It's hard for anybody to, have a really high scoring output in the paint, in a matchup like that. It wasn't great against Alabama State, but nobody for Auburn was that day. But, I think in terms of level, I think the level of concern is low. One, like you mentioned, Auburn has just so many weapons around him to where, if he's having an off night, I think there's plenty of guys around him who can, help pick the offense up. But two, he's somebody that's done it night in, night out, almost the entire season for multiple seasons. I think Michigan's gonna be another tough matchup. They're playing against a team with two real centers. They got a lot of size in their front line. So, I think they wouldn't be surprised if it's another game where maybe it is kind of a low, slow scoring night for Johni. But, to answer your question, in terms of concern, I don't think there's a whole lot of that there.
Who is that X factor for Auburn? Is it a guy like Chaney Johnson, or are there a couple of other guys that are going to be vital to Auburn and how long they remain in this tournament?
Yeah, I think, there's so many different guys you can point to. One that I pointed out, at the beginning of the tournament was Jahan Pettiford. He really struggled in that SEC tournament loss to Tennessee. Didn't score. I think was 0 for 8 from the field. But, I said, going to the tournament, like we mentioned it just now with Johni, Jahan Pettiford is probably their next best, in terms of a guy who can create offense for themselves, the next most dynamic offensive threat on that team. And, he's had a really good tournament so far. He had a good game against Alabama State. He kind of bounced back there. Against Creighton, he was the leading scorer, finished with 23. He's a guy that can score at all three levels. He can facilitate as well. And he's, as a freshman, what's just been so impressive about him is his poise, in big games. We've seen it all season. I think that's just going to be huge for them to continue, just with everything he can bring to the offense.
Peter, in regards to the concerns on this matchup against Michigan, it's interesting that they're going to see former teammate Trey Donaldson. He's averaging around 12 points a game. He's hit some big shots for the Wolverines down the stretch for them. Is it Vlad Golden down low, down on the post, or in Wolf? I mean, what are the other concerns to you going into this game for Auburn against Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, the front line with Golden and Wolf, that's what jumps up. That's what jumps out. It's funny because Auburn also kind of played the two center lineup with Broom and with Dylan Cardwell, but Michigan I think is the closest they face to what they are. But I think the difference is with Wolf and the Golden, you've got two real offensive threats in the post. I mean with Broom and Cardwell, I mean obviously Broom, National Player of the Year candidate, averages 18 points a game, really good offensive guy. We can talk about defense on the glass. With Cardwell, he's really just kind of your defensive center and your anchor. He's not somebody that's going to really give you a whole lot offensively. So that's the matchup that I'm most, kind of, I don't know if I'd say concerned about, but just intrigued to watch, how those two front lines kind of match up with each other.
If Auburn were to beat Michigan on Friday night, quick turnaround, especially with that being the late game, do you know how much Auburn, maybe extended members of their staff, are dedicating? Not that they would need it so much for Ole Miss, but a scout on a potential matchup with Michigan State?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of that gets done before. We after the tournament, I was in Lexington last weekend. And, it's a different scenario because, you play Alabama State in the first round. There's a lot more of an assumption that, you are going to get past and get to the next round. But, Stephen Pearl and Mike Burgomaster we're sitting courtside for the Creighton versus Louisville game, already kind of getting the scout, ahead of the next round. And I'm sure there'll be something similar to that, this weekend. I think, they've been in plenty of situations before, from Maui, from the SC tournament, where you're going to have quick turnarounds to where I don't think it's anything new for them. I think there's going to be some sort of plan in place. And like you mentioned, if it's Ole Miss, I don't think there's going to be, too much of a scout needed, given they've already played each other 3 times.
That is Peter Ratterkoos. He covers the Auburn Tigers for AL.com. Enjoy Atlanta, Peter. We hope to catch up with you soon, and we'll see if that's an extended weekend and maybe a trip to San Antonio is on deck.
For sure. Appreciate y'all for having me.
All right, thanks. That is Peter Ratterkoos joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Peter's probably thankful that he's not on a plane heading to San Francisco or maybe Newark.
To go to Tenderloins in San Francisco?
Is Ty there? Is he there for happy hour right now?
It probably is.
All you can eat happy hour.
I'll ask Molly. She'll tell us.
Yeah, Molly. What's going on with Ty? She can't even.
She's beside herself.
She is. She's speechless.
Yeah, she is.
Took her breath away. Yeah. So many things there.
Well, you know what? I will tell you something that can take your breath away, and that's a trip to Courtesy GMC in Trussville, right off of exit 32 in Trussville, off of I-459. Right now, Courtesy Madness is on at Courtesy GMC in Trussville. To close out the month of March, Courtesy GMC is dialing up the offers to close out March, up to $14,500 off the 2025 GMC Sierras in stock, up to $6,000 off MSRP on the brand new 2025 GMC Yukon Denali's. I've owned Yukons, and let me tell you something. This is an unbelievable vehicle, luxurious. It's a capable full-size SUV experience, a great interior, has a redesigned information center available with 24-inch wheels and a powerful 6.2-liter V8 engine. And as soon as those transports come in on the lot, they drop these bad boys off. They are off the lot pretty daggum quick. So you need to take advantage of the incredible deal of $6,000 off MSRP on the brand new 2025 GMC Yukon Denali's. You're not going to find a better price anywhere in the Southeast when it comes to GMC pricing. They encourage it. Go to courtesybirmingham.com. Compare. Go to the other dealerships. No one is going to beat the price you're going to get at Courtesy GMC in Trussville. Go by and see them off of I-459 in Trussville, exit 32, or check out their inventory at courtesybirmingham.com.
Latest Sweet 16 news you need to know. We'll do it next. 3-Man Front and Jocks 94.5. 114, man, it has been a jam-packed show today. Brian Edwards led us off in the 10 o'clock hour. Chris Stewart, voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, presented by Craneworks. Daryl Moose Johnson, Vice President of Operations of the UFL. Giddy up. Stallions get started on Sunday as they're on the road in D.C., but the season actually starts Friday night. Speaking of Friday night, we got the Sweet 16, and we have the Sweet 16 beginning tomorrow night. Kevin Cougar, Westwood 1, who will be on one of those calls from Indianapolis. Joining us on the show, Mike Rodak, who covers the Alabama Crimson Tide, and also Peter Rauderkus joining us as he covers the Auburn Tigers. I butchered the last name. That's fine. I call him Peter. War Eagle Pete. No, we appreciate him joining us. Sorry, I butchered your last name. It's not one that rolls off the tongue here in the South.
You did nice. You did fine.
Rauderkus.
There you go.
I said cuss. Coos.
There you go.
He did a great job. All of that is provided there at jocksfm.com on the Three Man Front podcast, Pat.
So how about this? According to Nielsen data, approximately 3,000 people watched at least 1 minute of all 48 March Madness first and second round games.
That's real easy when they give you the 4-box option.
I say you get the quad screen.
Yeah, you get the quad screen. Is that what we're calling it?
I call it the quad screen.
The quad screen.
Yeah.
I don't know if Nielsen counts that.
Oh.
I had 8 on at one time. No, it wasn't 8. It was like 6.
Full sicko.
Well, it was.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that doesn't seem like a lot of people. 3,000 people watched at least 1 minute of all 48 March Madness first and second round games.
I don't know.
With viewership up 3% and only 3,000
If you're going to watch
people?
at least 1 minute of every single March Madness game, that takes some serious planning, right?
Just hang out at Twin Peaks all day.
Yeah, go to Rambler Sports Bar and Grill.
Mm-hmm.
You got plenty of screens, plenty of options.
How many games do you think you consumed, Molly?
I know I at least watched a minute of all of them at some point.
Every game?
I think so, or at least most of them. Because I had, the quad screen, and then once one game was over, you'd click out of it and then click the new one. It would reset it. It was great.
So every game?
Yeah. Maybe I missed like 2, but I'm pretty certain I at least caught a minute of most of them.
I'm going through the list here just of the first day, and yeah, I think the first day I've counted up 12 of the 16.
12 of the 16 day one?
Yeah, and then on day 2, that would have been day 2, probably not quite as much. And maybe that's just because it's day 2 and day 1, maybe I was more locked in. I don't know, but it was at least 10 games on day 2. But that's, I don't know. And how do they register this?
Just Nielsen with a Nielsen box on your television.
On your deal?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's pretty impressive. I will watch, how many, you'll watch all of the games? I mean, we'll all watch at least a portion of all of the Sweet 16.
Yes.
And the Elite 8. But the quad screen is.
Now, see, I like the Saturday and Sunday night where once it finally got staggered.
Yeah.
I guess it's just because I'm used to the Thursday, Friday madness where there's just multiple games going on. I love that because I was kind of bored watching just the Florida Connecticut game on Sunday. I wanted something else going on.
Oh, having a standalone game?
Yeah. I wanted to have more action going on.
Yeah. That is a quick come down, isn't it?
It is.
From
like
going
the day after
wall to wall.
Christmas. Yeah.
And then they bunch all those games together there in prime time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then it got a little crazy there towards the back end with the whole Maryland situation with Colorado State. And then you had Oregon. And I mean, even Molly was texting me going, I got to go to bed. This is getting ridiculous.
The last 2 minutes of that game were
of the
horrible.
Oregon game.
What I did like about it, though, is it brought back very nice memories of Pac-12 after dark.
It did. It did.
It was very sentimental, felt very nostalgic, and
yeah,
I liked it. I enjoyed it.
If there are two, and I want to get you guys' opinion, if there are two teams that I think are being undervalued in their Sweet 16 matchup. I think one is Arkansas by some of the national basketball talking heads, but I also think Purdue. I am not seeing where anybody is giving Purdue, well, I haven't seen it with a particular network, at least, where they're giving Purdue a shot. They're giving their score predictions, and I know, take it or leave it, but it's like 9-10 points that Houston beats them.
I mean, everybody can have a bad game, but here's my problem with Purdue. Okay, so you saw what they did against Alabama at home, but then you saw what Auburn did to them on the road. You saw what Indiana did to Purdue. It just seemed like every time I tuned into a Purdue game, it was a Jekyll and Hyde situation.
I can see that. And Braden Smith, as good as he is and being an AP All-American, he turns the ball over. And Houston is really good at turning you over. Yeah. And now they're a better offensive team than they've been in years past. I don't know. I just thought that the Vegas line, I think, was around 8, but I saw predictions that Houston's going to run away with this game. There's no way that, and maybe they do, but I could see that a Purdue team having something to say about that. And then Arkansas. I think Arkansas is going to be in the Elite Eight.
Well, as Ty Richardson reminded me this morning, everyone's getting caught up that they're a 10 seed. But
they're not a 10 seed anymore.
They were a preseason number 4 in the toughest basketball conference in America.
You forget seeding now. You forget all of that.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a new day. Everybody believes they got a shot, and they do, to win a national championship.
I mean, there's only 16 teams still playing basketball.
That's it. But if you'll remember on this show, when he was announced last year, I said John Calipari, Arkansas, Elite Eight. Now, my confidence in that pick certainly was waning when we picked them to miss the NCAA tournament. Yeah, when they were 0-5 in conference play, but it could actually happen.
I mean, think about that. They were 0-5, and we all were saying, okay. So basically, South Carolina, LSU, and Arkansas are not going to make the tournament. But everybody else is going to make it.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma.
Oh, the fact that Oklahoma got in, I had them buried. I tried to bury them when we had a member of the selection committee on.
Yeah, you did.
And I don't think that Martin Newton disagreed with me all that much on what we had from Oklahoma at that point. But you know what? Oklahoma, they won some games. They gave UConn all they wanted. Some people say the officials helped.
So if you're on social media and you follow an individual, Captain Andrew Luck, if you follow his work, he basically takes on the attitude of a Civil War soldier.
Oh, I love the letters. Yeah.
So Captain Andrew Luck has just pinned another social media post to his mother.
Oh, we got to have some music. Can you do some something kind of soft, like you're writing your mother. You're off at war.
Mother. Here's the correspondence with Captain Andrew Luck and to his mother. Keep in mind, you know what happened yesterday in Stanford.
Troy Taylor.
Yep,
out. Coach. He's out.
Yep, he's out because Captain Andrew Luck is the new general manager of the Stanford Cardinal football program. This is what he penned to his mother. Dearest mother, I've relieved General Taylor of his duties, while vexing my resolve and determination to appoint new leadership are as solid as the hog's outhouse. Regiment drilling shall begin soon. A new day and new campaign are ahead. Thrilling. Please send more squirrel oil and a frog leg rhubarb pie. Andrew.
Oh, so good. Oh.
This is more like a dream sequence type music.
It is
I typed in calming music, and this was one of the first things.
Well, it is very calming.
I agree.
I'm going back now to
what was his last correspondence before this one?
One of his other correspondences. So it would have been November 30th of 2024. Dearest mother, the battleground has called for my glorious return. I'm thrilled to say I shall heed that call. I have re-enlisted. While my sidearm is permanently holstered, I shall help train other young men to be great soldiers. Please send care packages of squirrel oil and skunk cakes to our base camp at Stanford. I love you, Andrew.
This time he wanted a frog leg rhubarb pie.
Where is he from? Captain Andrew Luck, I mean.
Oh, good question. I don't know where he's
Here's
from.
September 26th, 2023. My heart is full and my neck beard spirited. To share with you my latest tintype for the mantle. I can't even pronounce that. This is really good. Do we know who does this?
Maybe it's
What if we found out it was really Andrew Luck?
What if it's Bo Pelini?
Oh.
By the way, Andrew Luck was born in Washington, D.C.
But Captain Andrew Luck was born in the South.
But he went to high school in, I did not realize this. Did you realize that Andrew Luck went to high school in Houston, Texas?
No.
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
So Oliver was doing what at the time?
Oh.
It's very soothing, Molly.
I know. I kind of like it.
I didn't realize he was a part-time coach at Palo Alto High School. Did you know that?
He's giving back, Pat. You can do that when you have a lot of money.
When you retire at 28?
You can get back when you don't have a lot of money. I'm saying that those guys just opt to, get out of the house. He's married, right?
Sure. Molly's in charge of knowing people's marital status, not I.
Okay, he was the CEO of the Houston Dynamo.
Oh, his dad was?
Mm-hmm.
Is that why he went to
I don't know, but that wouldn't have been, but that was from 2005 to 2010. Huh. I didn't realize Oliver, he actually played for the Houston Oilers. 82 through 86. Did you know that?
Yes.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Had no idea.
He is married, by the way.
And he's got a daughter. Lived in Indianapolis after his retirement and then moved back to the Bay Area, which is also known as the Paris of the West.
It is. You can find sanctuary there.
Yes, you can.
Amongst the redwoods.
And the homeless.
Mm-hmm.
Molly's really digging this music. I wish the camera would capture
I
her.
like it. It's soothing.
Need some scented oils. Need a little lavender. Put a little lavender right. Just a little dabble, do you? Right there.
Mm. All right, when we come back on Three Man Front, we'll do some Pat Ponders. We might even have the worst thing I've seen. You never know what's happening here.
There's older people playing pickleball, Pat.
Yeah,
see?
It looks like you in about 10 years.
It'd be a great game for you.
This is Three Man Front on Jocks 94.5.
131, we continue here on three-man front. College basketball tonight. UAB taking on UC Irvine. They're from the West Coast. 8 o'clock the tip, 7:30 the pregame. Jocks 100.5. Pat Smith will be a part of that pregame broadcast. David Crane, voice of the Blazers, on the call. Blazers, if they defeat UC Irvine, they'll advance to Indianapolis as a part of the semifinal round. So go Blazers there. But coming up tomorrow, we have the big matchup with Alabama and BYU, and that gives me a chance to tell you about our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, a great way to involve yourself in all of your favorite sports across the board, whether they be college, whether they be professional, doesn't matter the sport. You can interact with your friends, or you can just interact like so many of our great Jocks listeners have done. Here's what you do. Go to Prize Picks right now. You download the app on your phone. You fill out your information there on the account. It'll have a promo code box. Enter WJOX, your first $5 play. Win or lose on your player projections, $50 instantly to your account. That's right. Prize Picks is going to give you money for that. After that first $5 play, win or lose, enter promo code WJOX, and the $50 is yours. Tomorrow night, LeBaron Philon. More or less 10 points, Pat. Redeem yourself.
Less.
Going less there. All right. I just like going with your picks just so I can blame you when I lose, or if I lose. Yegor Demeen, BYU, 11 points, more or less.
More.
I like that pick as well. Good Russian kid. Less than 10 points for LeBaron Philon, more for Yegor Demeen of BYU. Those players go less or more on their particular projections. Landrum and Pat are winners. You can be as well. Download the app. It's Prize Picks. It is fun. And Pat, I don't even know. They might have table tennis on this thing.
Please tell me they do.
I think they got all kinds of different sports as you can go. MLB, soccer. I don't even know what that is. They got KBO, Euro golf,
Korean
MMA.
baseball. I was big in Korean baseball during the pandemic.
What does VAL stand for? Okay. Well, they got projections on that as well. It'll be a lot of fun. See, they got you covered. Prize Picks, we appreciate their partnership here at Jocks.
All right, let's do some ponders brought to you by Courtesy GMC. Brought to you by Courtesy GMC and Trustful is their online inventory at courtesybirmingham.com. We welcome into the studio host of the Damian Mitchell Show with special guest Conrad Van Order, weekday mornings from 6 to 7 here on Jocks 94.5. Damian, how are you doing on this beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous Chamber of Commerce Wednesday?
Picturesque. I'm doing well. Appreciate y'all having me. Didn't know we had formally changed the show. I thought it was more than Jocks, but the Damian Mitchell Show doesn't sound too bad.
I thought it was Conrad and Co.
No, it's the Damian Mitchell Show with special guest Conrad Van Order.
Okay. Got to work on that intro.
Yeah. Voice work has already been sent up.
I got you.
So it's official.
10-4. Y'all doing all right?
Doing great.
Finer than frog hair.
Man, it's been great.
Something I would expect from Pat, but okay.
No,
I didn't tell you that saying. I need to tell you that saying after this segment.
Okay.
Remember yesterday?
Yeah.
We got all caught up in the of Don's friend walking out in the parking lot yesterday.
Did you have any funny sayings that your parents would use, or maybe your extended family?
Not that I can recall right now, but
my stepdad, I was a kid and he was watching something on TV, and you go and you come in from playing, you're standing in front of the TV, he'd say muddy water. Okay. Which makes sense. Can't really see in muddy water.
Well,
hey, no joking. I will ask you, because I haven't asked you, and I feel bad I haven't. Everything good in Maplesville?
Yeah, everything's good. Everything's good.
Cool.
For the most part, a lot of the damage was in the woods anyway.
Okay.
There was one house that kind of took a bad one, but for the most part,
no injuries. No.
No. We're good.
That's great.
Good old D. He went and he participated in a charity event.
Yeah, I did.
That's
Very
fantastic.
Money.
Absolutely.
Well, I was concerned about Damien and his family.
Yeah.
I texted Damien.
Thank you, man.
During the storm.
Yeah, everybody's good, brother. Everybody's good. Thank you.
Unlike Conrad,
I knew you were fine.
Of course.
Unlike Conrad checking on Molly when she was sick, didn't text her one
Still
time.
haven't forgotten.
Yeah.
See, but you did that, and that's the gift that keeps giving, because I checked on you when you were about to get hit in a tornado.
I will tell you, and it's not just for the radio purposes, but Landrum did a huge service to me and Dylan.
You think about that next time you have me over there parking cars for your guests.
Why do you think I invite you to do that? It's to show my appreciation. That's why.
A lot of love.
You got a lot of leaves out here.
Pat, you know there's like a storm right over you, right?
I mean, storm, and I guarantee you, he was sitting there going down a wormhole, probably check table tennis or something.
Probably.
Now, yesterday it was clan names in Ireland.
It was great.
What names?
He sent me that.
Clan names.
Clan names. Not that kind of clan.
Ah.
Other kind of clan.
Clan with a C.
C clan.
Gotcha. I was making sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I sent you a screen grab. I was watching that live yesterday.
But when he sent me that, I was like, oh, God, Pat's going to figure out he's Scottish. He's going to come in and he's going to totally flip his world upside down.
Landrum goes, you're going down a Landrum hole here.
Yeah.
Because that's something that Landrum
That
would
is
typically
totally
do.
something I would dive into on a Tuesday afternoon when nothing else is going on.
I mean, yeah, that was right in the middle of having phone calls with Mike Griffith and other people yesterday afternoon. So,
Oh yeah, he invited you to his beach house, right? Like,
oh yeah,
you going down there and hang out?
I'm probably
You ought to bring the family down there. We do the beach volleyball. deal.
Yeah, let's do the whole show down there.
Come on.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Why not? All right, let's do some Pat Ponders.
Absolutely.
Since we're about 7 minutes already into this segment. Question number one. So Alabama announced today that they're going to have a practice on a day for about an hour and a half. So my question is, what format would you like to see most college football teams adopt for its college so-called football spring game? Do you like what Alabama's going to do? Do you just want to get rid of it altogether? Like what format do you want?
I'm so used to spring games, and I think that a lot of people, they do. It might be their only chance for them to get down there with their family because it's either cost prohibitive or just they've got chaos going on during the fall. So I'm open, and I'm not trying to dodge the question, but who knows? I think it gives coaches a chance to experiment. It gives schools a chance to do some different things and surround it with a lot of different events. I think we've seen examples of that though before.
Yeah.
Whether it was what Lane Kiffin did at Ole Miss, as much fun as we had, but why don't you turn it into have a concert, maybe outside? You could have like a fan fest.
Yeah. I still think there still needs to be some sort of a scripted scrimmage. Like at least if you're gonna have that many people out there, and especially if you're not necessarily keeping the practices public, at least have, if you're going to do drill work, make it short, just pretty much just to knock the rust off, get loose, and have
But
maybe
you're
like
gonna
a
have team
20
period.
Yeah, like a legit team period, inside drill or something.
I don't think they're going to have that, right?
Yeah.
They'll have situational team period where you go maybe you go ones on ones, but it's abbreviated.
Like some sort of scrimmage though. Like I wanted to see the best on the best.
See, I'm with Damien. I think some sort of scrimmage. And to Landrum's point, as someone that worked 3 spring games, that's an opportunity that a lot of families, that they can only make it out to games, especially for a place like, that might be harder to get tickets or they might not be able to afford them. Like, I know personally when I was on the dance team, we barely danced because we were constantly meeting people, taking photos, interacting with fans. And, a lot of the football players.
Did y'all charge for pictures for dance team?
We did not.
Ever?
Missed
No.
NIL opportunity.
Now, like certain businesses or sponsors could pay for us to make an appearance.
What
but
kind of businesses?
banks or
Oh.
not like that.
Not like what?
I don't know where you were going with that.
You never
but-
know. Birthday parties.
Yeah.
Bar mitzvahs, skating rinks. I don't know.
No.
I don't know what they do in Lincoln.
We never did any of that. But I'm all for having something for spring game for the fans to be able to enjoy, spring football with their families.
All right, question.
Did you get a clown? I got a Scarlet. And here she is. Hit the music.
Is that how it went?
Sure.
Oh, okay. Question number 2.
Jock jams.
Which former NCAA convicted cheater will get his new team to the Sweet 16 first? Will Wade in NC State or Sean Miller at Texas?
I'm going to say Will Wade.
Will Wade, yeah.
Will Wade.
Path of least resistance, right?
That's a great
And Trey
question.
Johnson's not going to be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I will. Yeah, I'm like you. NC State.
It's a great question, Pat.
It is.
Thank you, Molly.
I like Rule Bender, but
I like convicted cheater.
convicted cheater.
Convicted cheater.
Yeah. It kind of rolls off the tongue real well. Question number 3. St. Francis University was in the men's March Madness tournament last week, and their FCS football program has won 2 conference titles in the past 10 years. But yesterday, the school voted to drop their current status from Division I to Division III. This comes ahead of next month's likely final settlement of the House versus the NCAA case, which would allow colleges to share revenues directly with the athletes. Do you think that this is an outlier situation at St. Francis, or do you guys believe that this is the beginning of more smaller schools opting out of the Division I status?
I think this is kind of like this is the first domino to fall.
It's the first domino. I don't think it's going to be overwhelming right at first. I think a lot of these schools that have made the commitment and they got their fan base and a lot of people that probably gave private donations to facilitate the move to Division I, and that would also mean facilities and infrastructure and other things that you really have to have. But it's inevitable. You're going to have programs that size, maybe even a little bit bigger, that just decide they can't do it. It's just not feasible anymore.
Yeah, I think this is with Damien the first domino to fall, and we'll maybe not like as much, but we'll start seeing it some with these smaller schools.
I think you will start seeing some shocking names of schools. I'm not talking about the St. Francis's,
So saying, yeah,
a
some bigger
2000
schools.
college
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
outskirts
Yeah.
of Pittsburgh. I'm talking about
Some major universities.
Hmm.
The MAC.
just get ready.
Oh, not the Mac.
Watch out for the
You're
MAC.
talking about dropping their entire athletic program?
Dropping it all
Yep.
down to a Division II, Division III.
Hmm.
Because that's the only way that they can at least still have a semblance of an athletic department
Yeah.
Right.
and still do something. And, we've had Dr. Ridpath on this show many times. He's a regular on the Feinbaum show. He's at Ohio University. And, they celebrate at Ohio University. They have a couple of national championships.
Mhm.
It's just like Troy and Jacksonville State. They have national championships. There's nothing wrong with being a lower classification, just being the best at what you are
Yep.
Right.
for whatever classification you're in. So I think you're going to see probably some mid-majors go that route because you just cannot afford. Because think about this, the money that you're getting now as a program, you're not having to share that
Exactly.
with the student athletes, and you're struggling
Mhm.
to stay above water. What makes you think that all of a sudden you've got to pay the students
Yep.
and then make your money? And if you're having a problem making money, where's that
Where's
extra?
the extra? Exactly.
It's not coming. So, I mean, there's going to be a reckoning.
And Damien, you could attest to this, and me being there on that campus and being a part of the but at Birmingham Southern, I was blown away by how important it was to have an athletics program and how that affected your overall admissions rate.
Yep.
People who were interested in actually going and it didn't matter if it was Division III, if it was NIA, just offering that and having that part of your campus life.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of these schools, they will hang on as long as they can. But if they can't do it at the D1 level, do it at the D3. But unfortunately, you'll probably have some schools that just do away with athletics and they'll become club teams.
All right, final question of today's Pat Ponders. What word or phrase do you use way too much?
Golly, ton of them.
Yeah, FCC won't allow me.
Okay,
to use
clean
one
it
of them.
up.
I'll try.
Slay.
Is that yours?
Probably.
Oh, there's a bunch. I'm just trying to.
Exactly. Cleaning it up is the tough part.
Oh no, I wasn't saying that.
Oh.
You were going.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, complete degenerate.
Oh,
Huge. It's going off the beaten path.
Couldn't care less, or could care less.
You say that a lot?
No, it's
You
just
say that
it's one of my things that we got to listen to. You could care less. You just could.
Oh,
Those
so like
things.
someone on the text line says that's what you say a lot?
No, not that I say. They correct it when I say it, and I do say it wrong. I could actually care less, or I couldn't care less. It just depends on how I'm saying it. Absolutely. It's another one.
I am struggling.
It's a good one, Molly.
Wasn't expecting that one.
That one's tricky in there.
It is.
She'll get you.
That was a nice little jab.
What about you, Pat?
I have no idea, Rob.
I find myself saying this a lot to my kids, or at least when they were around.
Oh, John Saber's chimed in for Damien. Understandable.
That's a good one.
I've got one for you that you say a lot.
What is it?
Sweet Jesus.
That is true.
You do say that.
Yeah, because you said you had to clean it up. There's other things I would say.
Yeah.
So yeah, sweet Jesus. Usually when I'm shocked.
I will say to my kids, does that make sense?
I had nickel ferrets on my
Because I will say something.
I got buddies.
And then I'll get that look and I'm like, does that make sense?
No, I've got one buddy in particular. I love him to death, but I don't even think he realizes he says it. If he's saying something, does that make sense? Da-da-da-da-da. Does that make sense? Da-da-da-da-da. Make sense?
Yep.
He does it. We all have our hang-ups, or I guess crutch words. John Saber says for Landrum, Holly Rowe. Well played.
Yes.
Well played, John.
And so true.
This one coming in for Pat. Goes without saying.
Okay.
That's a good one.
I don't notice that much. Maybe it's just because we interact for 4 hours a day on live radio. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's a good one. Joe says Molly is like.
Yeah.
That's not just you.
It's my generation.
It's not just your generation. It's not.
Like what?
It's America.
It's like other
Like-
demographics
Right.
and generations. And
What does
stuff.
Don Don say a lot?
Like the Iraq.
Damien?
You remember that?
Yeah.
War Eagle. No, he was like, War down.
Hey!
War down.
Hey, Pat.
Probably got a bunch of those yesterday.
Because you spent like a whole weekend with him down at Auburn. So I was just curious if you remembered him saying something that was
a lot of War Eagles. Yeah, Pat.
People are on a roll. Hastings says, for Landrum, I hate Kevin Harlan. I do not hate Kevin Harlan. Oh, John Saber, I can't read it. Andrew says, like. Tim says, Pat says, in regards to. Look, we all have them. I don't know. Ready to go back and listen now.
Right. That's
All right, that's today's Pat Ponders, brought to you by Courtesy GMC and Trustful. Visit their online inventory at courtesybirmingham.com.
Hang on, David. We'll get to your phone call as we continue. 3-Man Front and Jocks 94.5.
It's 153, Jocks 94.5. I want to tell everybody about Golston Tree Service. The number is 205-337-4018. Family owned and operated for over 35 years. No job is too big or small, from trimming to removal to grinding the stump and the roots out to hauling away the last stick. They can take care of you, including 24-hour emergency storm work. The number again at Golston Tree Service, 205-337-4018. Call Michael there at Golston Tree Service, 205-337-4018.
And by the way, a funny text coming in on the text line about overused words. Jonathan says, my wife overuses the word no. Very well done.
Yes, boy. Very much so.
Let's go to David. He's in Gadsden. He's our friend. Hey, David.
Hey, guys, I just wanted to call and wish y'all a happy Sweet 16 Eve.
You too.
17 SEC in the Sweet 16, and I could realistically see 6 in the Elite 8. What do y'all think?
I like it. I've got an all SEC Final Four, and I brought that up to Pat. I don't think it would be crazy to have 6 of the 8 when it's all said and done. I love it. All SEC.
And that'd be awesome. And I'm ready for somebody to accept that shrimp burrito challenge. Just let me know.
All right, tell us about the shrimp burrito one more time.
It's shrimp, refried rice, beans, and a few secret ingredients, and maybe 1 or 2 hot chili peppers.
Oh, those are the hot ones. You grow them, don't you?
Do I now?
Do you grow the peppers? Did you tell us you grow those peppers?
I do. Got to get that capsaicin going.
Yep. I made the mistake. David, happy Sweet 16 Eve to you. And we appreciate you calling in. Appreciate you listening every day. But the capsaicin cream, do you ever use that? If you had an injury, like a muscle, they've got the capsaicin cream, and it's hot. It's got capsaicin in it. No. Ooh. Put some of that on, had a little bit of tendonitis in the elbow, went to play golf, hot summer afternoon, sun started beating down.
Started cooking. Started smelling like bacon over there.
It was
It started sizzling.
It was bad. It was bad. But David up in Gadsden, he grows his own peppers. And we met him when we went up to one of the Academy Outdoors
right
live shows
Gadsden.
that we did, and just wonderful. And he's a heck of a cook, but he wanted to do an eating challenge, and I guess because he's seen, I don't know why, he would direct it towards this show, because Conrad is our resident food challenge contestant, and he's just not very good at it, is he, Molly?
No, he's not. He's failed all of the ones he's tried.
Does he have any more challenges coming up?
He's got to do the surströmming challenge again.
He's got to do it again.
He's got to do it again?
Yes.
Yep. You were there. You were gagging.
I know, but
I was gagging bad.
Yeah, he's got to do it again.
So what was the reason why?
Because the can was not officially open.
But y'all smelled that.
Oh, okay, but that wasn't part of the deal.
Man,
we picking that fight.
Now we consulted.
Pat will battle you on this.
No,
Rules committee ruled.
Yeah, you got it, brother.
I mean, we consulted
I just ordered the fish.
The Guinness World Record book.
Wasn't enough.
No, they said there has to be full penetration. They have to be able to get the can all the way around. What? You people.
Just the verb choice.
That goes back to the story we had from The Worst Thing I've Seen. She broke a record.
Penetration?
What?
How do you even measure that?
Oh.
Oh, boy. Oh, yeah. Okay. Hey, glad I missed
Paul
that one.
Feinbaum is next.